Chapter 2166. When Shir heard this, she didn't mind. She patted Li Jianyue's shoulder and said, "So, sister, can you tell me what kind of girl your brother likes?" Shir's face bloomed into a chrysanthemum-like smile, and her flaming red lips were particularly eye-catching. Li Jianyue was silent for a moment and said, "I don't know what kind of girl Brother Mosen likes, but I know what kind of girl he hates." "What kind of girl?" "Disheveled." Li Jianyue glanced at her open neckline. Inside the neckline, everything that should be there was not there, but she had left it open. It was really not a good look. When Shir heard this, she immediately fastened the neckline and asked, "What else?" "Heavy makeup," Li Jianyue said mercilessly. Shir's expression changed immediately and said, "Are you serious?" Li Jianyue nodded sincerely and said, "Really?" Shir was a little frustrated and asked, "What else?" "Hair dyed." Shir was angry. "You deliberately caught me and said that, right?" Li Jianyue looked innocent. "No, what I said is true. If you don't believe me, you can ask Brother Mosen." Shir was speechless. If she could talk to Li Mosen, would she need to come to the toilet to block people? "Is there anything else?" Shir asked. Li Jianyue thought for a moment and said, "Maybe he likes gentle girls. After all, there are no boys who don't like gentle girls." Shir's face was completely gloomy. She looked at Li Jianyue and looked like she was about to cry. Li Jianyue was shocked. She hurriedly said, "Don't cry. Actually, you can just be yourself. If you have your own characteristics, people who like you will still like you. It's useless to deliberately cater to other people's preferences." Shir didn't quite believe it. "Really?" Li Jianyue looked serious. "Really?" After coming out of the toilet, when Li Jianyue returned to class to get her school bag, the students who stayed on duty were almost done cleaning. When one of the boys saw Li Jianyue, the tips of his ears were slightly red. He came forward to greet her. "Hello, my name is Jiang Hao. Are you Li Jianyue?" Li Jianyue smiled. "Yes, hello." "Ursu." Li Mosen's voice came from outside. A few girls followed behind him, pushing and shoving each other shyly. When Li Jianyue saw Li Mosen, she said to Jiang Hao, "My brother is here to pick me up. I'm going back. See you tomorrow?" Jiang Hao blushed and nodded. "Okay, see you tomorrow." Li Jianyue carried her school bag and walked out. She found that Li Mosen's complexion was particularly bad. Li Mosen reached out and tucked her under his armpit. He lifted her up like a little chick and said, "You're so capable. I thought you were lost." Li Jianyue was already used to his way of carrying himself. However, in school she couldn't help but blush. She flapped her legs and said, "I'm still wearing a dress. Don't cause me to be exposed." Hearing that, Li Mosen put her down and pressed his big hand on her head. "Don't talk to boys randomly in the future. There are a lot of liars in high school. You're so stupid. Don't get cheated. Go." Li Jianyue slapped his hand away. "Why are your words getting more and more annoying? My brother doesn't scold me anymore. It's your turn. You're the stupid one." Chapter 2167. Li Jianyue was pinned down and could clearly feel the envious and hateful gazes around her. She twisted and said, "Brother Mosen, a girl came to the toilet to stop me just now. She seemed to like you a lot and asked me what you like." "What did you say?" "Oh, I just said a bunch of things. Anyway, I said what she was like." Li Mosen couldn't help but pinch her cheek. "Naughty." Li Jianyue was still a little proud. "Anyway, you won't have puppy love in high school. You won't embarrass me, will you?" "No." Li Mosen looked helpless. "Mom and Dad are coming back next week. Are you happy?" "No," Li Jianyue said with a look of disgust. "Mom and Dad only know how to show off. It's so infuriating. Mom is already so old, but Dad still coaxes her like a treasure all day. He holds her in his hands and is afraid that she will fall. He's so annoying. Dad is a good man. You have to find a husband like this in the future. Do you understand? Dad is good, but there won't be a second Li Xiqing in the world." "Who said that?" Li Mosen found his car and saw a pile of gifts and love letters in the back seat. "I can be so good. If you don't believe me, you can wait and see in the future." As he spoke, he picked up the pile of things and threw them into the nearby trash can. Li Jianyue was shocked and said, "How can you do this? You threw so many things? You're not throwing them away?" Li Mosen also looked at Li Jianyue strangely. "There are so many things here. Where should I put them?" "School bag. My bag is full. I can't put these things in." "Then it's a pity that you threw them away." Li Jianyue's heart ached. "And the chocolate?" Li Mosen laughed. "Get in the car." Li Jianyue directly jumped up and grabbed the clothes at his waist. Next time there's candy for me, don't throw it away. Got it. When they returned home, Nanny Rong had already prepared the meal. Seeing them return, she wiped her hands with a smile and said, "Wash your hands quickly and eat. By the way, your grandfather just called and told you to rest and study early after eating. You must not play games anymore or else he will call to check on you." Li Jianyue stuck out her tongue and shrugged her shoulders. However, with her sly look, it was obvious what she was thinking. Li Mosen didn't expose her and ate quietly. Sure enough, as soon as Li Jianyue finished eating, she immediately picked up her phone and went to the battlefield. "No homework? I finished it at school." Li Jianyue said confidently. Aya, brother Mosen, come and help me. I can't beat them." Li Mosen sat behind her and reached out with both hands to hold her. He took the phone and looked at the score. He clicked his tongue in disdain and said, "You're as fierce as a tiger, but your score is 0. You're really the best Zhuge Liang I've ever seen." Li Jianyue replied, "Be more respectful when you speak. It's 1 against 5, all right? Is there a difference?" Li Mosen said disdainfully. Then his slender fingers operated on the screen. "Ah, that's too despicable. 1 against 5. Li Jianyue clenched her small fists excitedly and shouted, "That's too much. What's the hurry? I'm full HP." Li Mosen looked very calm. He walked coquettishly between the 5 people and quickly killed 3 of them. 6,666. Li Jianyue gestured. "Run." However, Li Mosen had no intention of running at all. He directly used a big move to kill the support with low HP and finally defeated the tank. Pentakill. I want to take a screenshot. Wait. Li Jianyue held his hand excitedly. She didn't realize that the 2 of them were directly pressed together. Chapter 2168. Li Jianyue didn't seem to be aware that she was being despised. She even said proudly, "What's wrong with me being promising? I'm the one who's promising." Li Jianyue posted her perfect 5-kill record on her WeChat moments. She said proudly, "Brother Mosen, help me play another round. I've been wanting to train Sister Diao Chan recently, but it's too difficult. Do your homework first. I'm done. Even so, you're not allowed to play. What will you say when Grandpa calls to check on you later?" "I'll say that Brother Mosen took me to play." Li Jianyue raised her eyebrows and said proudly, "My brother is coming back soon. I'll have to PK with him then. He'll always look down on me." "Your brother won't compete with you," Li Mosen said. "Why? Insulting my intelligence. You're so annoying." Li Jianyue pushed him away. "I'll play by myself then. The last one." Okay." Li Mosen sat beside her and watched her play the game quietly. After the last round, Li Jianyue went to take a shower. When she came back, she found that there were many likes and comments on her WeChat moments. "Rong Pan Pan, 66666 Miss Take Me Flying. Oh Xiao Xiao, when did Sister Ursu become so powerful? I don't believe it. Brother Mosen must have given it to you to play with." Li Jianyue replied proudly, "Yes, how about it? If you're not convinced, let's fight." Big Brother, Dear Father, Dear Queen Mother, and Brother Chu all liked the post. When she saw Brother Chu, a beautiful smile appeared on Li Jianyue's face. She clicked on Yu Chulin's profile picture and saw a new update. The basketball court is always exceptionally quiet late at night. The accompanying picture was of a basketball court and a red figure doing a slam dunk. Li Jianxian was getting taller. His back was slender, and the ordinary red jersey looked particularly handsome on him. Li Jianyue liked the post and commented, "When will Brother Chu come to Kingstown to play?" "I miss you." Brother Chu quickly replied, "Tomorrow?" When Li Jianyue saw it, she thought that he was joking and quickly replied, "Then you will be a puppy tomorrow." "Brother Chu, what should we do when we get there?" Li Jianyue replied, "I'm a little pig." Imperial capital. While Li Jianxian was sweating profusely, Yu Chulin was drinking water by the side of the basketball court. He suddenly laughed as he held his phone. Li Jianxian panted heavily and threw the basketball aside. "You're flirting with my sister again." "How could I?" Although Yu Chulin said that, his phone quickly replied, "It's a deal. Treat me to a meal tomorrow." Li Jianxian opened a bottle of water for himself and quickly gulped it down before asking, "Did you tell her?" "I told her, but she didn't believe me." Yu Chulin threw his phone on the grass and lay down. Looking up, the night sky of the imperial capital was always pitch black. Not a single star. All of a sudden, Yu Chulin asked, "Why did you suddenly decide to return to Kingstown to pursue postgraduate studies? You don't want to go?" Li Jianxian glanced at him and screwed the cap shut to lie down. I don't want to stay in the capital. I'm tired of it. What about your grandparents? It's not like I'm not coming back. It's the same no matter where I study. Li Jianqian stared at the night sky above his head. The day after tomorrow is the anniversary of great-grandfather's death. I can go back to pay my respects. Okay. The corners of Yu Chulin's lips curled up. Let's go then. The sky in Kingstown was much bluer than in the capital. One could even breathe in the air without fear of inhaling a mouthful of smog. Chapter 2169. Li Jinrui was in class and only found out about the news when it was time for lunch break. Li Mosen called out to her at the door of her classroom, "Li Jinrui, let's go." Li Mosen had always been eye-catching. Many people looked over and were extremely excited when he shouted. She thought that Li Mosen was going to take her to lunch. Unexpectedly, when she stood up, she heard Li Mosen shout, "Bring your bag. I'm applying for leave for you." Damn, are they going on a date? Bullsh *T, they are brother and sister. It's good to have a brother. He's so bold to skip class. Ah, he's so handsome. Senior Mosen, is Li Jinrui his sister? Why don't they look alike at all? Li Jinrui was surrounded by shouts. She bit the bullet and picked up her bag and walked forward. Li Mosen swaggered out of the campus with her. Li Jinrui couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong? Why did you ask for leave?" "Your brother is back. Didn't you know?" Li Mosen pressed her head. "Yu Chulin is here too." Li Jinrui's mouth formed an O shape. She couldn't believe it and said, "No way? Really? Didn't they tell you?" Li Mosen raised his eyebrows. "I saw that you guys were chatting excitedly on WeChat." Li Jinrui didn't realize that there was a hint of jealousy in her words. She took out her phone from her bag and opened it. Indeed, she received a few WeChat messages. "Brother Chu, we're here, Brother Chu. Piglet, treat me to lunch." Li Jinrui looked a little regretful and said, "I thought he was joking with me. Boo-hoo, how did I become a piglet?" Li Mosen saw her expression and pouted. "It's fine if you call him that. Can you really become a piglet?" "No, this is a kind of attitude, a kind of dignity," Li Jinrui said seriously. "I could have called him a puppy." Li Mosen glanced at her. Childish. Ah. Li Jinrui was even more regretful. She hugged Li Mosen's arm and said, "What should we do? Are we going to see brother and brother Chu now?" Seeing her expression, Li Mosen was a little annoyed. He lifted her under his armpit and directly carried her away. "Yeah. Aya, what should I do? I'm wearing such an ugly school uniform. My brother will laugh at me when he sees it." "How is it ugly?" Li Mosen was almost defeated by her. "It's beautiful and cute." "Really?" Li Jinyue's eyes lit up. "I was talking about the school uniform." Li Jianqian and Yu Chulin had arrived a long time ago. The family had arranged for a chauffeur to pick them up from the airport. When Li Jinyue and Li Mosen returned home, they saw the two teenagers sitting on the sofa. One was red and the other was white. Both of them looked very fair. Li Jianqian was 17 years old and looked even better. His eyebrows and eyes were very similar to Li Xiqing's, but his facial features were also similar to Su Qianxi's, except that he was more angular and looked more masculine. The young man's immature face carried a youthful aura. When she saw Li Jianqian, Li Jinyue's eyes lit up and she shouted, "Wow, brother!" Li Jianqian was originally sitting on the sofa talking to Yu Chulin. When he heard that, his gaze looked over. His eyes softened and he stood up. Li Jinyue threw her school bag aside and pounced on Li Jianqian. She shouted, "Brother? I missed you so much. Kiss me. Mua." Chapter 2170. Li Jinyue refused to budge. She hung on to him and pouted. "Give me a kiss. Just give me a kiss." Li Jianqian pulled her down and threw her onto the sofa. Li Jinyue was not annoyed at being thrown. Instead she giggled. She turned to look at the youth in red and called out, "Brother Chu." Yu Chulin reached out and patted her head. He smiled and said, "Ursu has grown up. But aren't you 17 years old? Why did you repeat a year?" Li Jinyue felt as if thousands of arrows had pierced her heart. She sat up with her hands on her hips and said, "You're the one who repeated a year. It's normal for a 17-year-old to be in the first year of high school." "Is that so?" Yu Chulin looked at Li Jianqian in disbelief. Li Jianqian happened to look over and raised his eyebrows. Invisible contempt was the most fatal. Li Jinyue felt as if her heart had been stabbed by knives. She wanted to cry but no tears came out. "Well, Ursu, this is normal." Li Mosen walked over and sat beside Li Jinyue. "You two perverts can't be compared to our Ursu." "Exactly." Li Jinyue immediately echoed. She seemed to have found comfort and hid behind Li Mosen. Brother Mosen is the best. You two only know how to bully me. You're the one who spoiled her and made her repeat a year, right? Yu Chulin immediately put a label on him. You spoiled her since she was young. She will suffer in the future. You can't spoil her forever. His words were a little harsh. Li Mosen glanced at Yu Chulin and said, I'm telling the truth. Let Daesu handle the outstanding matters at home. Ursu is a girl. It's fine as long as she's happy. Yu Chulin frowned. That works? He looked at Li Jianqian. Aren't you going to do anything about it? Mosen is right. It was rare for Li Jianqian to be on the opposite side of Yu Chulin. Li Jianyue's eyes lit up. Just when she thought that he really doted on her, she heard Li Jianqian say, I don't expect her to be outstanding with someone like her. Li Jianyue took an apple from the table and threw it over. She said angrily, annoying. Li Jianqian caught it firmly and smiled. We're not eating now. Grandpa wants us to go back to the old mansion for dinner. Now? Li Jianyue glanced at the clock on the wall. It's already past 1 o'clock. Grandpa, Grandma, and little brother have eaten, right? I don't know, but Moyun just called me and cried to me saying that you don't care about him. Li Mosen was a little gloating. Maybe my brother has been fed into a little fat pig. Li Jianyue, how ruthless. Yu Chulin reminded her sternly, that's your younger brother. Li Xiqing had a pair of twins. The older one was a boy named Daesu, and the younger one was a girl named Ursu. In addition, there was an adopted son and a second child. The adopted son was called Li Mosen, and the second child was called Li Moyun. More than once, Li Moyun wondered why his elder brother and sister were called Daesu and Ursu while he didn't even have the word Su. Later, when he found out that his dog was called Little Su, he felt better. They were the same species as the dog, but he and brother Mosen were different from them. With this understanding, Li Moyun even walked with the wind. When he talked to Daesu and Ursu, he would raise his head and puff out his chest. He was extremely proud. However, pride came with a price. One time he was so proud that he said to Li Jianyue, brother is so smart but you're so stupid. Did mom and dad carry the wrong baby when they gave birth to you? Li Ursu was upset for the whole day. Later, she didn't know how Li Mosen found out, but he reported it to Li Xiqing, who had always doted on his daughter. Chapter 2171. Li Ursu was upset for the whole day. Li Mosen somehow found out about it and reported it to Li Xiqing, who had always doted on his daughter. As for Li Moyun, he was thrown to the old mansion by Li Xiqing. From then on, he didn't even walk with his head held high. He didn't even raise his head or puff out his chest. He was afraid that he would bump into his grandmother and smile at her kind face. Little Moyun, Grandma just made some food. Come and try it. Little Moyun, Grandma bought some snacks for you. They are especially good for your health. Come and try it. Little Moyun, Grandma bought some revision materials for you. They are especially good for your studies. Come and try it. Li Moyun thought to himself, I was wrong. I want to go home. However, there was no use regretting it. Not only did Li Moyun have to settle his daily needs at the old mansion, but he was also sent to and from school by his grandmother. Every day his grandmother watched him eat 2 big bowls of rice. He grew from a thin 11-year-old boy to a little fatty who weighed 160 kilograms. Li Mosen was determined not to let him return to Yuxiu. He had thought that since they both had the same name they could be brothers. He was too naive. When he heard that Li Jianqian had returned from the capital and would be studying in Kingstown, he almost burst into tears. When he heard the commotion outside, the little fatty skipped out. When he saw his biological brother getting out of the black Bentley, he immediately ran up to him and shouted, Brother! My biological brother. When Li Jianqian saw Li Moyun, he burst out laughing. Yu Chulin looked sympathetic. Moyun, do you still remember me? Brother Chu. Li Moyun sniffled and looked aggrieved. When he saw Li Mosen, he shot him a hateful look. You're a bad guy. Li Mosen looked at him seriously. I'm doing it for your own good. Look at how well you've been eating recently. Li Jianrui laughed heartily. Fatty. Shut up. Li Moyun was furious, but he quickly pulled Li Jianqian and said, Brother, Grandma said she misses you. Come in quickly and let Grandma see how thin you are. His words were filled with deep resentment. Li Jianqian smiled and followed him in. Li Jianyue laughed mercilessly. Little fatty, don't walk so fast. Li Mosen followed him in and said, It's just a summer vacation. Why do you look like you're blowing air into your lungs? The little fatty got even angrier and turned around to hit him. However, Li Mosen was tall and easily blocked him. He said, Little shorty, you can hit me again when you grow up. The little fatty was full of grievances and hugged Li Jianxian's thigh. Brother. Big brother. Please tell Dad that I don't want to stay at Grandma's house anymore. I don't want to eat so much. Boo-hoo, the little girl next door used to blush when she saw me. But now she even laughs at me when she sees me. The difference is too big. I can't take it. That's enough. Li Jianxian pushed his head away. In the future I'll also be living in school. Mosen and Ursu will still be living at home. I can save you now, but I can't save you forever. Are you back? Qin Shuhua's face was full of surprise. She turned around and shouted, Lu Sa, you're back. Let's eat. Yes. Lu Sa replied with a smile. Third young master, can Jianlin drink fish soup now? No, a teenager's voice sounded. Li Jianlin closed his book and looked towards the kitchen. Grandma Lu, I'm allergic to fish soup. Chapter 2172. Li Jianlin was 11 years old, which was a month younger than Li Moyun. However, he looked taller than Li Moyun. Li Moyun was originally quite handsome, but after staying in the old mansion for more than a month, he had become a dwarf. When he saw Li Jianlin, Li Moyun felt even more wronged. He walked forward and sat beside Li Jianlin. Jianlin, your mom cooks so well. Why don't you get fat? Li Jianlin was tall and handsome. He had inherited Li Jinan's toughness, but he also had Yi Yuyu's gentleness and calmness. When he heard Li Moyun's words, he smiled and said, maybe it's because I don't eat whatever people put in my mouth. Li Moyun was speechless. He looked at Li Jianlin for a long time and sighed. Jianlin, you've become bad. Li Jianlin looked at him calmly. No, I've always been this bad. Li Moyun was speechless. Sob sob sob, there's really no love in this world. Li Jianyue and Li Mosen looked at Li Moyun and laughed mercilessly. When Qin Shuhua saw them like that, she smiled and said, you're laughing so happily. Go wash your hands and eat. With that, she put down the plate in her hand and looked at Li Jianlin. Jianlin, ask your dad to come out for dinner. Okay, Grandma. Li Jianlin stood up and quickly went to knock on the door. At that moment, the door was closed. Li Jianlin knocked twice and shouted, Dad, Mom, come out for dinner. Soon a voice came from inside. Coming. It was Yi Yuyu's voice. When he heard the answer, Li Jianlin immediately said, then I'll leave first. Okay. After Yi Yuyu replied, she reached behind her in exasperation and asked, are you done yet? That's right. What's the hurry? Li Jinan carefully braided her hair into a beautiful twist. He then reached out and said, rubber band. Yi Yuyu handed the rubber band over. After Li Jinan carefully tied it up, he smiled with satisfaction. He looked at his little wife in the mirror and was happy and blissful. He leaned over and kissed her cheek. My wife is so beautiful. Yi Yuyu looked proud. Of course. Young and beautiful just like an 18-year-old. These words were half flattery and half truth. Yi Yuyu had taken good care of herself and was usually in a good mood. She was 37 this year. She didn't look much different from when he had first met her. Yi Yuyu smirked. You have a glib tongue. As long as you don't go out and lie to little girls, that's all. Let's go. Mom, Dad, and the kids are all waiting for us. When Li Jinan and Yi Yuyu walked out, everyone was seated at the table waiting for the two of them to start eating. The square table at home had long been replaced by a larger round table. In the middle of the marble table was a turntable with a dazzling array of dishes on it. When they came out, the children immediately greeted them. Uncle, Auntie? When Li Jinan saw Li Jianxian, he pointed his finger at him and remarked, good lad. You've grown up. You're even more handsome than your uncle. Li Jianxian wasn't embarrassed by the compliment and replied generously, Uncle is still more handsome. Li Jinan laughed heartily. You're a smart lad. He nudged Li Jianlin and said, learn from your older brother. Li Jianlin felt a little innocent. After a moment of silence, he said, I often scold people with my cousin in the game. I learned it all from him. Li Jianxian was speechless. Chapter 2173. Li Jianxian coughed softly without changing his expression. Brother-in-law, I bring him along to play games, but I never scold anyone. Li Jianlin said in disdain, that's right. You led him to a corner and got beaten up by a group of people. In the end, you went back to pick up his head and forced others to cheer you on. You're much worse than me. Li Jianxian did not deny it and said, brother-in-law, look, he learned to scold people himself. Isn't it too much to blame me? Li Jianlin was speechless. All right, it's time to eat, Qin Shuhua said with a smile. She scooped a bowl of soup for Yu Chulin and said, Chu, are you coming to Kingstown with Desu to study? Yu Chulin politely took the bowl and nodded his head. Yes, Grandma. Jianxian is studying finance and I'm studying philosophy. Philosophy? Li Xiao was interested. Are you interested in this? Yu Chulin nodded his head and explained politely. Li Xiao and Qin Shuhua had a good impression of him as he addressed them as grandpa and grandma. Li Mosen looked at him and quietly put food into Li Jianyue's bowl. He said, "You like prawns? More." Li Jianyue agreed, but she did not forget to look at Yu Chulin. Her eyes were sparkling and she occasionally chimed in with interest. Li Mosen was a little jealous, but he did not do anything inappropriate. Li Moyun stretched out his arms and started eating. Just as he was eating with a satisfied look on his face, Li Mosen stared straight at him. Li Moyun felt goosebumps and asked, "Brother Mosen, are you jealous of my handsomeness?" Li Mosen was silent for a moment and said seriously, "I'm thinking, can you digest so much meat?" "I can digest it," Li Jianyue said. "It's just that it accumulates heat and becomes subcutaneous fat, turning into the lumps of fat on his body." As she said that, the children at the dining table laughed. Li Moyun blushed and muttered, "I didn't eat a lot." Although he said that, he still put down his chopsticks. When Qin Shuhua saw this, she was unhappy. She smacked him and said, "If you want to eat, eat. You're still young. You're chubby and cute. When you grow up, you'll naturally slim down." Yes, that was what Qin Shuhua had always told him. However, there were no signs of him growing taller or thinner. Instead, he was growing more and more horizontally. But when he saw the table full of good dishes, he couldn't help but want to move his thumb. Li Xiao glanced at them and said, "Jianlin and Moyun aren't young anymore. Since they're both at home, they should train with me from now on." Li Jianlin looked up with a look of surprise on his face, followed by a look of sorrow. "What?" Li Moyun was even more direct. He pulled a long face and said, "Grandfather, you can't abuse children." "How is he abusing a child?" Li Xiao could not help but laugh and said, "Your grandfather is kind. Don't you ask your uncle how their grandfather treated them back then?" Li Moyun had long heard about it. Unfortunately, by the time he was sensible, his great-grandfather had already passed away and he didn't have the chance to see him in person. When he heard Li Xiao's words, Li Moyun said, "What can I do? My grandfather is kinder than his grandfather. It's my blessing." Li Xiao was elated by the compliment and laughed heartily. He said, "Come on, eat more. It'll be easier to train after eating." Chapter 2174. Hearing the little fellow's words, everyone laughed in unison. The 3 generations of the Li family lived under the same roof. Unfortunately, Li Xiqing traveled around the world with his wife. Li Beixing and Xiu Manyu were also busy in the military camp with the child. But even so, it didn't affect Li Xiao and Qin Shuhua's good mood. After the meal, Li Jianyue sensibly helped Lu Sa clean up. The boys, on the other hand, were busy playing, messing around, learning, and sucking up to her. Lu Sa didn't reject Li Jianyue's thoughtfulness. The child was still young and needed to practice a lot of things. Li Jianyue didn't have any burdens and called her Lu Sa. While Li Jianyue was helping to wash the dishes, Lu Sa was washing the fruits. She walked over and whispered to Li Jianyue, "Miss Chu seems to come every year." Li Jianyue didn't look up and said, "Yes, he's going to study in Kingstown this year. He's with my brother. I think he looks good." "He seems to like you," Lu Sa said mysteriously. "His family seems to be quite powerful. He's fair and tall. He doesn't look like the kind of guy who can't take hardship." When Li Jianyue heard Lu Sa's praise, she immediately sensed something and asked warily, "What do you want?" "I think he's not bad. I heard he's 2 years older than you. He's also a genius." "Humph," Li Jianyue said. Although Li Jianyue was a little stupid, she was not stupid. She immediately said, "Lu Sa, don't try to matchmake. Brother Chu and my brother are good friends. We've known each other since we were young. It's impossible for us to have that kind of development. Besides," Li Jianyue said and lowered her voice. "Besides, my parents won't let me fall in love at such a young age." "Puppy love?" Lu Sa looked reproachful. "How can that be called puppy love? In the past, when you were your age, children were already running around." Li Jianyue pouted and muttered, "You're talking about ancient times, right?" "It was the same in my era," Lu Sa disagreed. "But it's good to listen to your parents. I just feel that it's a pity for Chu. He's such a good kid and he's in a favorable position. Let's take him down first." "Sixth grandma," a young man's voice rang out, sounding a little deep. "Where should I put the fruit knife?" Li Jianyue turned around and saw Li Mosen looking at Lu Sa with an unhappy expression. As if sensing Li Jianyue's gaze, Li Mosen quickly shifted his gaze to look at her. His azure blue eyes were slightly gloomy and there was no smile on his face. Li Mosen had always looked amiable. It was rare for him to be like this. Li Jianyue couldn't help but ask, "Brother Mosen, who provoked you?" Li Mosen seemed to realize that he had lost his composure. He smiled and said, "It's nothing. I just felt that I was too full just now. My stomach feels uncomfortable." "Then why do you need a fruit knife?" "To peel an apple. I heard that when you peel an apple, the apple skin will not fall off from the beginning to the end. If you make a wish, it will come true." Li Mosen said seriously, but Li Jianyue was shocked. She felt even more surprised and asked, "Why do you still believe this?" Li Mosen's expression didn't change. He said, "I'd rather believe it." Chapter 2175. Li Mosen took the fruit knife and responded calmly. "I'll be going out then," he said. Just as he was about to walk out of the kitchen, Li Mosen suddenly turned around and said, "Oh yeah, Chu seems to be leaving first to look for a place to stay." Li Jianyue was confused. Look for a place? What? Didn't he say that he would be staying on campus? Li Jianqian and Yu Chulin's school had 2 recommended spots, and one of them had already been taken by another person. Li Jianqian and Yu Chulin's grades were about the same, and their rankings were also about the same. Later, Li Jianqian did not hesitate to withdraw from the tutor, and the recommended spot naturally fell to Yu Chulin. Top students like them, especially Yu Chulin who was recommended, should have a high status in the school. The living conditions in the dormitory should be very good, so why would Yu Chulin want to look for a place to stay? Li Jianyue couldn't figure it out. When Li Mosen heard Li Jianyue's question, he seemed to have thought of something. His eyes flashed and he said, "Chu is already so old. It's normal for him to rent a place to stay with his girlfriend." With that, he turned around and left without caring about what the people behind him thought. Li Jianyue was a little surprised and said, "Brother Chu actually has a girlfriend?" Diske, I really couldn't tell." Lu Sa, on the other hand, saw some other signs. She stared at Li Mosen's back, then turned around and continued with her work. No one knew what she was thinking. After washing the dishes, Li Jianyue helped sweep the floor and do all kinds of housework. As the only granddaughter of the Li family and the apple of everyone's eye, Li Yao and Qin Shuhua were very satisfied that she could be so sensible and could not stop praising her. A group of young people playing in the old mansion was still a little restrained. When Li Jianyue was done with her chores, they all went out and invited Oh Xiaoxiao to go to Yushio's house that night. Oh Xiaoxiao had lived in Yushio with Yu Lily for many years. The moment school ended, Oh Xiaoxiao went straight to Uncle Li's house. Oh Xiaoxiao was about the same age as Li Moyun, but as a girl Oh Xiaoxiao was only about 1.3 meters tall. She was a long way from Li Moyun. When she walked in she looked like a child. After greeting Nanny Rong obediently, Oh Xiaoxiao went to get Nanny Rong. When she saw Li Jianqian she called out with a smile, "Brother Li," and then shifted her gaze. "Jianlin, why do you look thinner? Moyun has gained weight. Wow, Sister Ursu has become prettier." Ah. Li Jianyue liked Oh Xiaoxiao very much. Soon the 2 girls played games together and chatted happily. Li Moyun leaned over curiously and asked, "What game are you playing?" Oh Xiaoxiao said, "Miracle Nuanyuan." Li Moyun was speechless. Li Moyun decided to play with the boys. He moved closer to Li Jianlin and asked curiously, "Jianlin, what game are you playing?" "Pleasure Candy." "Can't you play a little more exciting?" "That gluttonous snake?" F***CK. Li Moyun stood up and lectured them with a serious look on his face. "We're young people of the new era. We can't be so outdated. Let's go play all." "I won't." "Then what can you do?" "I will also be a miracle, Nuanyuan." Li Moyun's heart ached. He held onto the sofa and looked at Li Jianlin with a pained expression. "You really know how to chat." Li Jianlin didn't even look up as he replied, "Thank you." "Jianlin, I just don't want to play with you, stupid fatso." Chapter 2176. Li Moyun was speechless. His good mood was not affected even though he was rejected by Jianlin. He eagerly went to look for Li Jianqian and found him filling in some application information on the computer. "You want to look for Yu Chulin." Yu Chulin was on the phone and when he saw him, he made a shushing gesture. After one round, Li Moyun felt a little defeated. He looked back at the coffee table and saw Li Mosen peeling an apple. One by one the apples were peeled and cut into pieces and quietly soaked in salt water. Li Moyun walked up and picked up a toothpick to poke a piece. He asked, "Brother Mosen, why are you peeling so many apples?" "Eating." Li Mosen did not look up as he carefully peeled the apple. Li Moyun saw a long strip of skin hanging down and reached out to pull it off. Suddenly, Li Mosun turned around and avoided his hand. He said coldly, "If you break it, I'll break your leg." Li Moyun was shocked and said, "How can you do this? Can't you be a good brother?" Li Mosun glanced at him. "Do you want to try?" Li Moyun stuffed the apple into his mouth. "You tyrant." Although he said that, he stared at the apple skin and said, "If you're done, can you carry me to play games?" "No. I've been practicing Oriana recently and it's very good. Carry me." "No. Then I'll look for Sister Ursu to play Honor of Kings. Carry us." Li Mosun finally looked up and glanced at him. "If she plays, I'll carry you." "All right." Li Moyun immediately stood up and shouted, "Sister Ursu, Brother Mosun said he'll carry us." Ursu said, "Coming?" The group of people played for the whole afternoon. Suddenly Nanny Rong's surprised voice came from outside. "You're back?" As soon as he said that, many people turned to look at him. A tall figure wearing simple dark casual clothes appeared. His eyebrows and facial features were flawlessly handsome. Time did not leave many traces on his face. His facial features were even more defined and better looking than they were a decade ago. Behind Li Xiqing, Su Qianxi walked in beautiful high heels. She was wearing a light green long chiffon dress and looked like a fairy. Her long hair draped over her shoulders, and her temperament was gentle and refined. She was truly an elegant and dignified lady. Seeing the room full of children, Su Qianxi was pleasantly surprised. "Daddy. Mom." Li Moyun ran over pitifully and shouted, "I missed you so much." Li Moyun was almost as tall as Su Qianxi, and his body was a little broad. When he hugged Su Qianxi, he almost took a step back. However, before Li Moyun could warm up to her, he was dragged away by a large hand. He warned seriously, "Don't hug my wife. Be more respectful." Li Moyun felt that he was being ostracized and felt even more aggrieved. He shouted, "That's my mother. I am your father." Li Xiqing let go of him, glanced at him, and then swaggered inside with his wife. Su Qianxi was a little embarrassed to be stared at by a room full of children. She pulled his hand and said, "There are so many children here. Restrain yourself." "Oh." Li Xiqing looked down at her. After so many years they should be used to it. Su Qianxi's skin was still fair and crystal clear. She had taken good care of herself. Chapter 2177. When Su Qianxi heard Li Xiqing's words, she patted him. Li Xiqing's lips curled up as he glanced at the group of children in the living room. Everyone looked at Li Xiqing and the others. Li Mosun put down the fruit knife in his hand and Li Jianxian put down the computer. "Dad, Mom." Yu Chulin greeted, "Hello, Uncle Auntie." Oh Xiaoxiao greeted, "Godfather, Godmother." Li Jianlin greeted, "Second Uncle, Second Auntie." Li Jianrui was much more direct. She threw her phone on the sofa and rushed toward Su Qianxi, shouting happily, "Mom!" She shouted loudly, and her laughter was crisp and cheerful. Li Jianrui hugged Su Qianxi tightly and then Li Xiqing saying, "You're finally back. I missed you so much." Li Xiqing looked at his daughter who was almost the same height as Su Qianxi and deliberately said with a straight face, "How old are you? Why are you so rash?" Li Jianrui smiled and asked, "Did you bring any gifts?" "Yes." Su Qianxi looked at her daughter reproachfully and then looked back. The chauffeur had already brought the things in and asked, "Sir, Madam, where should we put them?" "Put them here." Su Qianxi walked forward and said, "These 2 boxes are gifts for you." The group of children rushed forward and Su Qianxi took out the gifts one by one and counted, "This is Ursu's dress." "Mom is the best. This is a record for Daesu. Haven't you always wanted a collector's edition of this record?" "I found it." Li Jianxian said, "Thank you, Mom." "Moyun, this is the model you wanted." Li Moyun almost jumped up and shouted, "Long live Mom. Mom, I love you." Li Xiqing looked at the kid and frowned. He knocked his head and said, "Look at how fat you have become." Li Moyun shrunk his head back and smiled cheekily. Su Qianxi smiled and quickly said, "Xiao, this is the princess dress you wanted. It even has an autograph." Oh Xiao was very surprised and said, "Thank you, Godmother." "Mosun, this is the limited edition sneaker that you have always wanted." Su Qianxi took out a shoe and said, "Your father specially queued to buy it and almost couldn't get it." Li Mosun's eyes lit up and he quickly went forward to take it. Looking at the shoes lying quietly inside, every part of them was exquisitely made. Li Mosun smiled and said, "Thank you, Dad." "Thank you, Mom." Li Xiqing walked up and gestured at him. "You're taller than me. Try playing basketball later." "Okay." It was rare for Li Mosun to be so happy. He smiled, revealing a row of white teeth. Li Jianyu came forward and took a look. She said in surprise, "Wow, sneakers can look so good. Brother Mosen, let me see." "Me too, me too." Oh Xiao Xiao came over. Li Moyun immediately clapped his hands and joined in the fun. "I want to watch too. What does he look like? Is it the pair that won the sneaker award this year?" Yu Chulin also came forward, his eyes full of interest. Li Mosen was a little smug and said, "No, no. Don't break it." Although he said that, he still took out the shoes. "So handsome." Li Moyun's eyes lit up. "Mom, why didn't you buy me a pair too? It's so beautiful. It's a limited edition. There are only 5 pairs of each size. There's no size for you." Li Xiqing mercilessly broke his dream. Chapter 2178. Li Jianlin was pleasantly surprised and said, "Thank you, Auntie." The game console was huge with 2 controllers and a huge screen. It was in the shape of a robot and the boys liked it at first sight. Li Moyun immediately rushed over and shouted, "Mom, I'm definitely not your biological son. Why didn't you give me a game console?" "Because you'll be addicted to games, but Jianlin won't," Li Jianchen said. "Accept your fate." Li Moyun said, "No, that's not fair. I won't be addicted to games. Jianlin, let's play together." Li Jianlin thought to himself, no. However, his parents were still around. Li Jianlin hesitated for a moment and said, "Let's give it a try." Li Moyun almost burst into tears. He immediately followed and said, "I knew Jianlin is the best." Li Jianlin was speechless. Su Qinxi smiled and rummaged through her suitcase. "This is for Chu. It's a set of the original works of the top 10 classical novels in the world." Yu Chulin was surprised. "There's one for me? Thank you, Auntie." "Of course, everyone has one. This is for Nanny Rong." Su Qinxi finally stood up. "I've also prepared one for Pan Pan. I'll bring it over to your Uncle Rong's house tomorrow." Rong Pan Pan had also grown up and loved to look beautiful. Therefore, she had brought a beautiful princess dress for her. Su Qinxi tidied up and quickly returned to the room with Li Xiqing. After so many years of being married, Li Xiqing's love for Su Qinxi had never decreased. Every day and every night, they wished they could be together forever. They were really attached to each other. After the couple left, the children looked through their gifts one by one. They were all very surprised. Li Jianchen put the vinyl record into the record player. Soon, a soothing and classic music came out. It was romantic and lyrical with a lingering charm that lingered in the air. As far as the eye could see, the group of people were living together in harmony. Ming and Yu Lili had been married for more than 10 years, but Ming's passion for her was still the same as when they had just gotten married. In the O family villa in Yuxiu, Yu Lili was so overwhelmed that she couldn't breathe. She pushed him and shouted, "Don't go too far. Our daughter will be back soon." "So be it. What are you afraid of?" Ming hung up the last accessory and finally smiled with satisfaction. "This looks good. Come, look in the mirror." Yu Lili was in her 30s, nearing her 40s. Her face looked especially small. At this moment, she was wearing the wedding dress that she had worn on her wedding day more than 10 years ago. The phoenix coronet and red shawl made it hard for her to breathe. She looked at Ming and said, "Is there something wrong with you? Why did you make me wear this all of a sudden?" "Beautiful. Very beautiful." Ming's eyes scanned her body greedily and covetously. Then he hugged her and said, "So beautiful." "Oh, I don't want to wear it. It's too heavy." "Hurry up and take a picture, then help me take it off." Yu Lili shook her clothes. "Why aren't you changing?" Ming's beautiful peach blossom eyes narrowed. He opened his arms and hugged her firmly. He whispered, "I didn't let you wear it for the sake of taking photos." "Then why?" "To take it off." After Ming finished speaking, he picked her up and put her on the bed. "Today is our wedding anniversary. Have you forgotten?" Yu Lili replied, "I forgot." Chapter 2179. Ming's words were full of resentment. Yu Lili heard it clearly and she burst out laughing. She held his face with both hands and kissed him. With the intention of saving him, she said, "As long as you remember it." Ming's face hardened. He snorted and immediately unbuttoned her clothes. Layer by layer, Ming was addicted to it and serious. In the end, when he was only left with his underwear, he looked at her with shining eyes and said, "Wifey, I have good news and bad news for you." What? Yu Lili's mind was filled with thoughts of where to eat and play that night. When she heard this, she looked down at him. "Do you want to hear the good news or the bad news first?" "The bad news." "Then I'll say the good news first." Ming mysteriously pressed down on her and kissed her. We don't need to wear condoms in the future. Why? I want to go for sterilization. Yu Lily was speechless. Hearing this, Yu Lily sat up and looked at him with a serious face. Ming was half lying on his stomach and blinked at her. Ming, are you serious? Ming replied, yeah. What? It's too troublesome to wear a condom. Ming pounced on her again. I'm already in my 40s and I don't plan to have another child. It's too troublesome. You're an old woman and it's dangerous. We only have Xiao Xiao. How old is Xiao Xiao? It's not a problem to have another child. Yu Lily hugged him. Let's have another child? Ming's eyes suddenly became hot. He reached out to press her softness and asked, why do you suddenly want to have a second child? I think Mom is right. Yu Lily's face showed some struggle. Your mom brainwashes me every day telling me to have a second child and a second child and a third child. She's been talking about it for almost 10 years. Let's have one. Who knows, we might even have a boy. That way Mom won't nag me so much. What if it's a girl? Yu Lily immediately became depressed and said, that can only mean that we're unlucky. We can only accept it. Ming couldn't wait any longer. He directly said, come on then. Yu Lily quickly held him down and asked, are you still going for sterilization? No. Because both Ming and Yu Lily's cell phones were connected, but no one picked up. Xiao Xiao was ordered to go home to find her parents and go to her godparents' house for dinner. As soon as he opened the door, he saw that the house was empty. She went to her parents' room with ease. Xiao Xiao raised her fist and knocked on the door twice, shouting, Dad! Mom! Ming, who was holding his wife, suddenly froze. Yu Lily couldn't get up or down. She punched him and shouted, hurry up! Ming replied, what's up, Xiao Xiao? Godfather and godmother are calling you for dinner. Got it? Yu Lily agreed. She then dawdled and urged, you go ahead first, Xiao Xiao. We'll be there later. Xiao Xiao was already 11 years old, so she probably didn't know much about anything at this time. But she also knew that she couldn't open her parents' door directly. She had to knock on the door and wait for them to let her in. Yushio's soundproofing had always been very good. Xiao Xiao left immediately after hearing her mother's shout. He didn't even hear the various harmonious and disharmonious sounds coming from inside. Chapter 2180. The relationship between the husband and wife was like a day for 10 years. When they arrived at the Li residence, Yu Lily and Ming came arm in arm. The children were already used to it. They ate, drank and played as usual. The adults gathered together to chat, and the children were having a good time in the living room. However, Li Jianhua found that Li Mosen looked a little strange today. He was unusually quiet today. Although Li Mosen didn't usually speak much, there was almost no one who made people feel that he was so gloomy. Sister Ursu, come and play games with me. Xiao Xiao tugged at Li Jianhua. I can't get past this stage. It's so annoying. Stop playing games. Let's have fun later. Li Moyun was always full of ideas. When he saw that everyone was gathered together, the adults didn't care. He took out a deck of cards and said, come, let's play together. No matter how big or small you are, gather together. Li Jianqian sat on the sofa and enjoyed the original soundtrack of the vinyl record. Yu Chulin had just received the book from Su Qianxi and was already reading it. Li Moyun couldn't stay idle. He immediately went up and pulled them over. He shouted, come. If the two of you don't take the lead, the others won't dare to come. You can do that at any time. It's rare for you to come back. Come. His voice was so loud that even Li Xiqing and Ming, who were talking in the living room, heard it. Ming laughed. Look at your youngest son. You're so boring. Sister-in-law is also more introverted and quiet. How did you give birth to such a clown? Li Xiqing couldn't understand it either. He thought of Li Moyun's chubby face, but his facial features were exactly the same as his. He sighed and said, when things reach an extreme they will move in the opposite direction. Daisa looks like me, Ursa looks like my woman, and Xiaoxi looks like anyone. The smile on Ming's face deepened. His peach blossom eyes were filled with helplessness and curiosity. He said, Mosen doesn't look like Tang Menjing. He looks more and more like an Asian. I mean, if he knows what happened in the past, will he blame you? Li Xiqing played a big part in the Tang family's downfall. They knew the evil things the Tang family had done, but Li Mosen didn't. Ming felt that Li Mosen was like a ticking time bomb. Although he had watched him grow up, Li Mosen's blue eyes were as gloomy and silent as he was. It was too deep. Every time he saw him, he would always remember that this was Tang Menjing's child. The woman who had almost ruined Li Xiqing's family was raped by a foreigner and gave birth to her. When Li Xiqing heard that, the smile on his face faded. After a moment of silence he said, "He knows." Ming raised his eyebrows. What? When his biological mother died, he was right in front of him. Li Xiqing looked at Ming. "Have you forgotten?" "I haven't forgotten." Ming had a deep impression of her. The child had always been gloomy, and after a long period of time, he became even more taciturn. It wasn't until he entered high school and grew up that he gradually became more cheerful. He was smashed by that woman when he was born. If it weren't for his mother, he would have died. The mother he was talking about was Su Qianxi. She treated him as her son, and he is also my son. Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. So, there is no such assumption. Chapter 2181. Ming's eyebrows moved and he put down the teacup. He stood up and walked out. The children gathered together, playing some unknown game. Not a single one of the children was wearing blue. Mosen was not among them. Ming's heart sank. He turned back and closed the door of the living room. He sat down again with a look of annoyance. "I think I'm in trouble," he said. Li Mosen originally just wanted to go to the bathroom. But when he heard Li Xiqing and Ming talking, he happened to hear them mention Tang Menjing's name. Tang Menjing. He was not unfamiliar with the name. It could even be said that he remembered it from childhood. That was his biological mother's name. And this woman hated him to the core even before he was born. His only impression of this woman was when he was 6 years old, beside a small pond near the Li family's old house. She strangled his neck and laughed, telling him that she was his mother. Li Mosen was shocked to hear such a word out of the blue. He unconsciously stopped and leaned against the door to listen to their conversation. When he heard Li Xiqing's words, he felt a little disappointed. Because Su Qianxi treated him as a son, so he treated him as a son, right? Li Mosen couldn't tell what he was feeling. Disappointment and loss. But he was not sad. He knew his identity. He knew it since he was young. He should be grateful that the Li family adopted him and gave him such a good education. He really didn't have the right to ask for more. Li Mosen just turned around and suddenly met Ming's eyes. Feeling guilty, he quickly turned around and quickly ran to the corridor. His heart was beating fast. Li Mosen went to the bathroom. When he came out again, the door of the living room was closed. That's not right. They didn't say anything serious. Why did he hide? Li Mosen straightened his back and walked back. Li Moyun had already explained the rules to the group, and the cards in his hand were also rustling. Li Mosen listened to the rules and knew that they were going to play a killing game together. When Li Jianyue saw him, she immediately jumped up and said, "Brother Mosen, sit next to me." No, Mosen can't sit there." "That's right, Brother Mosen will go easy on you. You want to cheat. Sister Ursu is too cunning." Li Jianyue didn't feel that she was cheating at all. She said confidently, "I have a good relationship with Brother Mosen. You guys can be jealous." As he spoke, he didn't care about the crowd's protests and directly pulled him to sit down. "You can be my superior." Li Mosen unconsciously curled his lips and was dragged to sit down by her. Li Jianyue smiled when she saw his expression. She leaned over and whispered in his ear, "Are you in a bad mood today?" There was a faint fragrance of a young girl on Li Jianyue's body. It didn't seem like any perfume. It was a unique smell. Li Mosen felt a little nervous when he felt the warmth in his ears. Hearing Li Jianyue's words, Li Mosen paused slightly and looked at her sideways. Li Jianyue blinked her big eyes and smiled. She looked innocent and sincere. Although Li Jianyue sometimes looked stupid and her IQ was not particularly high, she was sensitive and meticulous. That was what Su Qianxi was after. Chapter 2182. After getting Li Mosen's affirmative answer, Li Jianyue didn't take it to heart. She turned her head and arrogantly raised her eyebrows at her friends and said, "Come on, let's begin." Seeing this posture, everyone knew that Li Jianyue was full of confidence. Li Moyun was very dissatisfied and directly waved his hand and said, No, Brother Mosen can't sit here, let's change seats." "No, you're bullying me." Li Jianyue refused. "Besides, Brother Mosen and I may be enemies." "That won't work either, he will never kill you." Li Moyun had already seen through everything and said disdainfully, "You're relying on Brother Mosen, do you dare to play by yourself?" Li Jianyue laughed shamelessly and said confidently, "I don't dare." "That's it," Li Mosen said lightly in a low voice. "Do you have any objections?" He glanced at him indifferently and Li Moyun immediately shrank back. "It's a game, there must be a punishment," Xiao suggested. "How about the loser drink 3 glasses of water?" I have no objections." "Okay, let's go." Get ready. I will definitely kill you until not a single piece of armor remains. When Li Moyun said this, he looked at Li Jianyue. Li Jianyue was not afraid and smiled with both hands on the table to fight. In the end, Li Moyun quickly slapped his face. He wanted to kill Li Jianyue but failed. Instead, he was targeted by Li Mosun. After a dozen rounds, no matter how he pretended or acted, Li Mosun was always able to expose him. In the end, Li Moyun wanted to cry but had no tears. He pitifully begged for mercy. Brother Mosun, I really can't drink anymore, please let me go. No. Li Jianyue immediately jumped up. You only know how to bully me, drink it? Li Moyun leaned on the table and touched his bulging stomach, wailing, Sister, my dear sister, you can't treat your brother like this, I'll tell Mom later. Then I'll tell Dad, let's see who's more ruthless. Li Moyun was speechless. There was no justice, a man had no dignity. Li Moyun raised his head angrily and looked at Li Jianyue's annoyed expression. Everyone thought that he had decided to start a rebellion and looked at him expectantly. In the end, Li Moyun jumped up and slammed the table, shouting, I'll drink. Everyone. The game ended quickly and the children dispersed in twos and threes. Yushio's house didn't have much, but it had a lot of rooms. There were 4 bedrooms on the second floor and 5 on the third. They were all suites and were very spacious. Li Jianyue and Li Mosun had always stayed on the second floor, and Li Jianxian used to stay on the second floor. Now that Yu Chulin was here as well, he simply asked Nanny Rong and another servant to move his things to the third floor so that he could keep Yu Chulin company. After the crowd dispersed, Li Jianyue realized that Li Mosun seemed to be really unhappy. Seeing that Li Mosun was about to return to his room, Li Jianyue quickly followed him. She stood beside him and shouted, Brother Mosun, what's wrong with you today? You don't look very happy. Li Mosun glanced at her and shook his head gently, I'm fine. How can you be fine? Li Jianyue didn't believe him. Then, as if she had thought of something, she naturally hugged Li Mosun's arm and said, I made a little thing recently. Come over, I'll show you. She looked a little excited. Although she didn't have any makeup on, she looked like she was overflowing with colors. Li Mosun lowered his head to look at her hand, and his suppressed emotions eased up a lot. The corners of his lips curled up soundlessly, and he followed her into her room. From now on, there would be one updated day with occasional updates. The update time would be at 11 p.m. Chapter 2183. Li Jianyue carried out the little thing that she had carefully made. It was a wishing bottle. It was already filled with stars, layer by layer with distinct colors. From bottom to top, the colors were red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue and purple. Li Jianyue stuffed the wishing bottle into Li Mosun's arms and said, This is for you. A bright smile blossomed on her small face and she said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I haven't had the time to make a wish. Seeing that you're so unhappy today, here, quickly make a wish. Li Mosun had a look of disdain on his face. He reached out and pushed her head. How old are you? You still believe in such things? So what? Li Jianyue put her hands on her hips and said confidently, I believe in this. It's always a heart. As the saying goes, a sincere heart works. If you believe in it, it will happen. Li Mosun snickered and looked at her helplessly. Li Jianyue was furious and reached out to snatch it back. If you don't want it, give it back to me. Li Mosun hugged the small bottle and turned to avoid it. How can I take back what I've given away? You're so annoying. Li Jianyue's face turned red. Li Mosun chuckled and rubbed her head. Alright, I like it very much. I don't believe you, you're lying to me. Really? Li Mosun held the wishing bottle in his arms and asked, How long did you fold these stars? It's been quite a long time, Li Jianyue muttered angrily. I was the one who secretly folded them. I was planning to use them to make a wish. What wish do you want to make? Li Mosun rubbed her head. I'll see if I can help you realize it. You can't. How would I know if you don't tell me? When Li Jianyue heard this, she actually felt that it made sense. She blinked her big bright eyes and looked at Li Mosun. I want to skip a grade and go straight to the 3rd year of high school. Then I'll be admitted to the same university as you. Li Mosun was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Li Jianyue's wish to be this. Li Mosun's heart softened. He looked at Li Jianyue and thought for a moment. It's indeed a little difficult. Li Jianyue was so angry that her face turned pink. She clenched her fists and said, You're asking for a beating. Li Mosun smiled. Which university do you want to go to? Kong University. You don't want to go anywhere else? I don't want to, Li Jianyue said confidently. Why should I go somewhere else? Mom and Dad are both here. Now that my brother is back, I want to get into Kingstown University. Kingstown University is a 985 university. Can you get in? Then, other schools are fine too. Kingstown University of Foreign Languages, Kingstown Family Business School, those are closer to home. I don't have to stay there. The smile on Lee Moson's face widened. Who would pick a school like that? Just because it's close to home you choose? These schools are all top schools. I know. Moreover, I'm only in the first year of high school. How do you know that I won't be able to get into these schools? My grades are very good. Moreover, aren't you the one tutoring me? Lee Jianhua was annoyed. That makes sense. Seeing his perfunctory attitude, Lee Jianhua was so angry that she didn't want to talk to him anymore. Brother and Brother Chu will also tutor me. I will definitely be able to rely on them. Brother Chu? Lee Moson raised his eyebrows slightly. He then took a step forward. What do you think about what Granny Rong said to you today? Lee Jianhua blinked. What do you think? You're talking about Granny Rong asking me to date Brother Chu? Lee Jianhua suddenly understood. Lee Moson frowned a little unhappily. Just as he was about to speak, the voice of a youth came from outside. Who wants to date me? Chapter 2184. A voice came from afar, but it wasn't clear. When Lee Jianhua heard the voice, she turned to look. Yu Chulin walked over with a smile on his face. That smile looked especially warm and natural, and it was directed at Lee Jianhua. Lee Moson only felt that Yu Chulin's smile was particularly eye-catching. He was like a wastrel who attracted bees and butterflies. In fact, Lee Jianhua was indeed bewitched by Yu Chulin's smile. A pair of bright eyes stared straight at Yu Chulin. Then she smiled and said, Brother Chu, you're so good-looking. Yu Chulin smiled even more happily and said, It's so late. What are you talking about? Lee Jianhua was a big-hearted person. When she heard that, she wanted to explain, It's today. What's the matter? Lee Moson interrupted Lee Jianhua and looked at Yu Chulin. It's so late. You haven't showered yet, have you? Yu Chulin knew that Lee Moson was deliberately changing the topic, but he didn't mind. He smiled and said, Yes, not yet. I was just about to go downstairs to get something. I heard you talking and wanted to join in the fun. Ursu, you don't mind, right? Of course not, Lee Jianhua smiled. What are you going downstairs to get? I might have seen it. A phone charger. I was playing downstairs in the afternoon and forgot to take it when I came up. I'll go with you. I'm going to get a glass of water too. Lee Jianhua walked over with a natural expression. However, before she took a step forward, Lee Moson stopped her. Wait here. I'll go. What water do you want to drink? Lemonade, not iced. Okay, wait here. Lee Moson held the wishing bottle in his hand and swaggered out. At the same time, he pushed Yu Chulin out as well. Lee Moson closed the door and led Yu Chulin downstairs. Yu Chulin was 2 years older than Daesu and Ursu, but only 1 year older than Lee Moson. This 1 year difference did not make Lee Moson feel that there was a big gap between him and Yu Chulin. When they were walking down the stairs, Lee Moson said, Ursu is a little careless. Sometimes she doesn't know much about the ways of the world, but I think you should know. Yu Chulin had his left hand in his trouser pocket. When he heard this, he still had a warm smile on his face as he raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at him. Lee Moson did not seem to notice Yu Chulin's gaze. With a natural expression, he continued, I hope that you won't enter a girl's room in the future. Yu Chulin chuckled. Then what were you doing inside just now? I'm her brother. Lee Moson turned around and looked at him calmly. Yu Chulin nodded, but he looked deeply into Lee Moson's eyes and said slowly, After all, he's not his biological son. Lee Moson's eyes flickered, but after a moment he said slowly, Indeed, but this does not conflict with my request. You are not allowed to enter Ursu's room in the future. Just now I hope you don't go in. Now is not the time to go in. One was still a little polite, but the other was not the least bit hypocritical. Although he had a smile on his face, his unfriendly intentions were clear. Lee Moson turned around and pointed to the white thing in the corner. Your charger is over there. Take it and go up. After he finished speaking, he walked into the kitchen calmly. He was acting like a master. Chapter 2185. Yu Chulin stood and looked at Lee Moson for a long time before he shook his head with a helpless smile. This kid's hostility was too obvious. His motive was too obvious. Yu Chulin unplugged the charger and turned to return to his room. When he passed by the second floor, he clearly saw Ursu peeking out. Yu Chulin saw her and said, Good night. Lee Jianhua giggled and said, Good night, Brother Chu. It's a weekend tomorrow. Shall we go to the amusement park? Yu Chulin nodded slightly. Sure. He kept a smile on his face. It was faint but comforting. Li Jianyue blushed slightly and nodded before she went back into her room. Yu Chulin heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned around and saw Li Mosen with an unfriendly look on his face. Li Mosen was holding a glass of water in his hand. It seemed to be still warm as steam was rising from it. Yu Chulin took a glance and said, Ursu asked me to go to the amusement park tomorrow. I'll go up first. Li Mosen watched him walk up step by step before he continued to walk the rest of the way. Yu Chulin naturally sensed the gaze behind him. He straightened his body and walked up the stairs steadily. However, he couldn't help but feel a little playful towards Li Mosen. When he went upstairs, he saw Li Jianxian leaning against the door frame of his room. Li Jianxian looked at Yu Chulin and said, Mosen grew up with Ursu. I won't allow you to have any ideas about my sister, let alone him. Don't take his words to heart. Yu Chulin smiled faintly. Why would I? Go to sleep. After saying goodbye to Li Jianxian, Yu Chulin went to his room. The smile on his face gradually disappeared. Li Jianyue's slightly pink face flashed across his mind. The affection that flashed through his heart was obvious. However, he only liked her as a little sister. Why was everyone guarding against him as if he was a thief? Li Mosen brought a glass of water for Ursu and reminded her seriously, Ursu, high school is a time when your studies are intense. I won't ask for anything else from you, but you must not fail any subjects. You must enter the same university as me, understand? Li Jianyue took the water and was a little confused. She quickly replied, Oh, okay. After sending Li Mosen off, Li Jianyue drank some water and tossed and turned on her pink princess bed. She couldn't fall asleep no matter how hard she tried. Hugging her pink heart-shaped pillow, her mind was filled with wild thoughts. She thought about Nanny Rong's words, Li Mosen's strange behavior, and Li Mosen's solemn instructions. In the end, Yu Chulin's fair and bright face appeared in his mind. When he smiled, his eyes curved like crescent moons. The way he looked at her was as if he wanted to hold her in his heart, doting and gentle. Li Jianyue blinked her eyes and suddenly came to a realization. Oh my God, could it be that Brother Chu likes me? Was that why Granny Rong said that? Was that why Brother Mosen said that? I can't be. Li Jianyue found it a little unbelievable. Really? Yu Chulin was like a big brother to her. If there were feelings like when she fell in love in junior high, she wouldn't feel like a big brother anymore. What should she do? Li Jianyue suddenly felt a little complicated. She felt like she had grown up. Hugging her little pillow, Li Jianyue looked at the ceiling above her head worriedly. Chapter 2186. It was Saturday. Li Moyun had thought that he would be able to sleep peacefully without staying at his grandparents' house. However, things did not go according to his wishes. He was still dug out early in the morning. When he woke up with a bun on his head and rubbed his butt, he realized that he had only slept for 10 more minutes than usual. He immediately covered his blanket and howled loudly. However, he had no choice. Due to the coercion of his parents and siblings, Li Moyun immediately washed up and happily dressed himself up. After all, everyone had agreed to go to the pirate ship to have fun today. However, when he came down, Li Moyun immediately realized that his little Missy was behaving strangely that day. She was usually the most lively, cheerful and energetic one. However, when she woke up today she actually looked a little tired. It was as if she hadn't slept well. Li Moyun immediately went up to her and whispered, Sister, did you go to be a thief last night? Li Jianrui lifted her eyelids and glanced at him. Her gaze then fell on his head. Can't you comb your hair properly? Li Moyun rubbed it and wanted to press down the strand of hair that had stood up, but it immediately stood up again. Li Jianrui shook her head and said, I can't bear to look at it. You should get your hair cut. Didn't Grandpa and Grandma complain about you when you stayed at their house? Li Moyun was a little embarrassed and said, They don't understand. This is called fashion. All the girls in my class say that I look good. The girls in your class are so hypocritical, Li Mosen interrupted and slowly walked down the stairs. He looked plain and elegant. Li Mosen was dressed simply today. He wore a black turtleneck sweater and a dark gray baseball jacket. His jeans made his long legs look long and straight. He looked especially handsome as he walked over step by step. Li Jianrui couldn't help but take a few more glances at him. Then she disliked Li Moyun even more and said, Look at Brother Mosen's hairstyle. It's so simple and handsome. Li Moyun looked indignant and said, He's jealous of my beauty. Li Mosen took a look and then said with a faint smile, Yes, I'm jealous of your 200-pound body. Li Jianrui laughed mercilessly. Even Li Jianxian, who was walking down the stairs, couldn't help but laugh when he heard it. Li Moyun's chubby face turned red as he looked at his brothers and sisters. Unconvinced, he placed his hands on his waist and said, "Who's 200 caddies? I'm only 150 caddies." "Oh, with your height of 160 and weight of 150, you're still proud?" Li Jianhua laughed out loud and wiped her tears. "You're already as fat as a ball, yet you still eat so much at every meal. You'll die of obesity." Nanny Rong heard the commotion and gave Li Mosun a reproachful look. She then said to Li Moyun, "Don't listen to your sister. Being able to eat is a blessing. You're still young." However, these words were undoubtedly like a heavy blow to Li Moyun's already battered heart. His chubby face turned even redder. He looked at Li Jianhua and then at Li Mosun before turning to leave in a huff. Nanny Rong said, "You only know how to bully your brother. Tell your parents later." "Of course not, we are just caring for our brother's future." Li Jianhua immediately retorted. "My brother has already been fed by grandpa and grandma. What if he can't find a partner in the future? Who's looking for a partner?" Su Qianxi's gentle voice sounded with a smile in her voice as she walked slowly. When Li Moyun saw his mother, he went up to her with a pitiful look and shouted, "Mom! Your son and daughter are bullying me." Li Jianxian immediately waved his hands and said, "I'm not. It's Mosun and Ursu." Chapter 2187. The siblings joked around and finished their breakfast just like that. Li Xiqing and Su Qianxi were always together, so they naturally went to the company together. These people of the same age had agreed to go to the amusement park together yesterday. In addition to Li Jianhua, Li Jianxian, Li Mosun, Li Moyun, and Yu Chulin, there were also Rong Panpan and O Xiaoxiao. After the chauffeur of the O family and the Li family sent them to the amusement park, they took out their student IDs and bought tickets together. The group of 7 people spent most of the day queuing up. Fortunately, there were many people, so they chatted and played games together and the time passed quickly. However, Li Jianhua didn't expect to meet someone she wasn't familiar with at the amusement park. Quan Jingyi, who had taken off his school uniform, had also taken off his lazy clothes. At this moment he was wearing a pointy hat on his back and a lady's sling bag on his back. He held 2 ice creams with a resigned look on his face and looked ahead helplessly. Standing right in front of them was a girl who looked to be the same age as them. She was wearing a pink Lolita-style dress and had delicate makeup on her face. She was holding a camera and smiling brightly as she took pictures of Quan Jingyi. It had to be said that Quan Jingyi's appearance was very good. At this moment, he frowned slightly and looked impatient and helpless. He looked much more pleasing to the eye than the half-dead look in school. Li Jianhua couldn't help but take a few more glances. Then she was waved by a hand in front of her. "What are you looking at?" Li Moyun followed her gaze and found that among the surging crowd, there was a tall boy who was particularly eye-catching. "Wow, everyone come and look. My sister is looking at a handsome guy." Li Moyun shouted exaggeratedly. "Brother Mosun, look." Li Jianhua immediately glared at Li Moyun and said impatiently, "You are so annoying. I just took a look. That is my classmate." "Wow, a male classmate." Li Moyun finally found a breakthrough point to vent his hatred. How could he let it go? He raised his voice and said, "What a handsome male classmate." Li Mosun was originally not far from Li Jianhua. At this time, when he heard Li Moyun's words, his gaze naturally followed the direction that Li Moyun was pointing. On the other side, Quan Jingyi also noticed the commotion and looked over. His lazy, pitch-black eyes met with Li Mosun's. Their eyes met. One was casual while the other was vigilant. Quan Jingyi sensed the hostility of the other party, and his gaze quickly fell on Li Mosun's side. A girl was grabbing a chubby young man and beating him up. The fair and chubby young man shouted exaggeratedly, big brother, save me, your sister is crazy, crazy." Li Mosun glanced at Li Moyun and said, "You deserve it." Li Moyun wanted to cry but had no tears. He shouted, "You're inhumane for not saving me." Li Mosun ignored him and turned his gaze back to Quan Jingyi. However, Quan Jingyi had already looked away and walked away while eating his ice cream. The girl beside Quan Jingyi glanced at Li Mosun and greeted him with a smile. She caught up with Quan Jingyi and said, "Wow, that mixed-race guy is so handsome. Who is he? Do you know him?" Quan Jingyi shoved the ice cream into her hands. "He's the top student in our school, a senior in year 3. Wow, do you know what it's called?" Chapter 2188. Seeing that Quan Jingyi had left, Li Mosun realized that this person seemed to be Ursu's desk mate. He had only seen his face once a few days ago. The rest of the time this guy had been lying on his stomach. Was he sleeping? Li Mosen frowned unconsciously. He should ask their class teacher to change their seats. Such a person would definitely affect Ursu's grades if he was Ursu's deskmate. Li Jianyue was originally a person with weak willpower. Once she had decided on something, as long as someone instigated her, her position would be shaken and changed. Such a young girl was innocent and gullible. Li Mosen was often worried that the young girl would be tricked by others. Now that there was such a delinquent by Li Jianyue's side, it would be terrible if Li Jianyue's little ambition was shaken. Li Mosen thought about this and turned around to find that Li Jianyue and Li Moyun had already run to buy cotton candy. Oh Xiaoxiao and Rong Panpan were holding hands and whispering to each other. The two little girls were smiling happily. Li Jianqian and Yu Chulin did not like to play this kind of amusement park. After being dragged by Li Jianyue to play, the two of them slipped away with the excuse of going to the toilet. At that moment they had already gone to the cafe in the amusement park to sit. Li Mosen stood in the same place and people around him kept looking at him in amazement. Among them the majority were girls. "Brother Mosen, what flavor of ice cream do you want?" Li Jianyue shouted at Li Mosen. "I'll buy you a chocolate one, okay?" Li Jianyue's voice was not soft. Li Mosen looked helpless and made an okay gesture to her. Li Jianyue smiled happily and said to the girl selling the ice cream, "There's strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla. Can you finish it?" Li Moyun was holding a hot dog in his hand and eating it happily. Li Jianyue said confidently, "The vanilla is yours, the chocolate is Brother Mosen's, and the strawberry is mine. I didn't say I wanted it. It's okay, just take it. I'll try it and the rest is all yours." Li Moyun was speechless. Li Jianyue gave the money and licked the ice cream with a smile. After giving the ice cream to Li Mosen, Li Jianyue's eyes fell on Oh Xiaoxiao and Rong Panpan. Li Moyun only saw Li Jianyue running towards the two little girls. Then, the three little girls held hands and walked towards the merry-go-round. Li Moyun was dragged to line up unwillingly. When it was finally their turn, Li Jianyue smiled happily and rushed to occupy the largest and tallest horse. She turned back and shouted to Li Mosen, "Brother Mosen, help us take a photo." "All right." Li Moyun was indignant and said, "Brother Mosen, you spoil her too much." "Li Moyun, it's none of your business." Li Jianyue pouted angrily. "If you have a problem with it, help me take a picture." No. It wasn't that Li Moyun hadn't tried it before. When he went on a vacation he was ordered by Li Jianyue to take all kinds of photos. He was exhausted just carrying the camera. Since then, Li Moyun swore that he would never take photos for Li Jianyue again. It was too much suffering. Looking at Li Mosen's expression, Li Moyun couldn't help but complain, "This princess syndrome is all because of you. In the future, if any guy can stand her, he will definitely not be able to get married." His voice wasn't loud, but Li Jianyue's ears were sharp. She immediately said, "Li Moyun." Chapter 2189. Li Mosen's words were heard by a girl next to him and she immediately shouted, "F***ck, didn't they say that they were siblings? This doesn't seem right." The girl's voice was not soft and Li Jianyue immediately looked over. With one glance she saw the pink Lolita-style dress that the girl was wearing. Wasn't that the girl who was beside Quan Jingyi just now? Li Jianyue blinked her eyes and said, "What's wrong?" "What's wrong? My brother dotes on me the most. Of course I have to be responsible to the end." The girl was frightened by Li Jianyue's confident look and she shrank her neck. She asked weakly, "How are you going to be responsible?" "Of course, you're going to be responsible for finding a boyfriend for me to rely on in my next life." Li Jianyue did not suspect anything and did not think much about it. On the contrary, Li Moyun had originally thought of the same idea as Li Jianyue. However, after being reminded by the girl, he suddenly realized that there might be another possibility. After all, Li Jianyue and Li Mosen were not biological siblings. Li Moyun shuddered all over and thought about it in fear. He looked at Li Jianyue and then looked at Li Mosen. Finally, his gaze fell on the girl who was obviously relieved. Seeing this, Li Moyun couldn't help but touch his chin again. Was he thinking too much? Hopefully not. The smile on Li Mosen's face was obviously a little more restrained than before. His gaze fell on the girl coldly, but it only lingered for a moment before he turned away. The merry-go-round soon began to turn and Li Jianyue sat on it. She was wearing a beautiful pink coat in the style of a cute little princess. Li Jianyue's appearance was exquisite and her smile was like a flower. A casual glance was enough to make people unable to look away and completely attracted to her. The dreamy music surrounded the dreamy lights and Li Jianyue's beautiful and exquisite smile. Li Mosen could not stop the camera in his hand. One after another. However, after every photo, Li Mosen's gaze did not stop on the camera. Instead he stared at Li Jianhua. In his azure blue eyes, other than the dreamy lights reflected in the bottom of his eyes, there was only Li Jianhua's figure. Sitting on the merry-go-round, Li Moyun yawned and said, "Why isn't it over yet? Let's go play bumper cars, shall we?" "No, what's so fun about bumper cars?" Li Jianhua immediately pouted. "Why don't we go play interstellar travel?" "Alright, but let's play the bumper cars first." Li Moyun was very determined. "Oh no, the bumper cars keep bumping into each other. I was almost sent flying last time." When Li Jianhua thought of the unpleasant experience from the last time, she felt a shadow in her heart. "Let's go through interstellar travel." "No, no, no." Li Moyun had no choice but to use his trump card and said, "Brother Mosen will bring you flying. Brother Mosen is very powerful. You were sent flying the last time because you didn't play with Brother Mosen. If you play with him this time, I guarantee that you'll be the one who will be sent flying." "Really?" Li Jianhua seemed to be asking Li Moyun, but she was looking at Li Mosen. Li Mosen received Li Jianhua's puzzled gaze and nodded. "Yes. All right, let's go then." Sure enough, Li Mosen and Li Jianhua drove very steadily. On the other hand, Li Mosen was hit by Li Jianhua's instigation. The more he begged for mercy, the happier Li Jianhua laughed. "Do you still want to play?" Chapter 2190. Still playing? Li Moyun was already dizzy from all the bumps. If he continued to play, he would be the unlucky one. Li Moyun was panting. When he finally got down, all the fat on his body was itchy from the shaking. He looked at Li Mosen and Li Jianhua, who were in cahoots with each other. He was furious. "I must complain to Dad when I get back." However, it did not take long for Li Moyun to forget about this matter. The children had been playing for the whole day and were starving. Once they got out of the amusement park, they went to a famous restaurant in Kingstown called Pickled Fish. It was said that the food in this restaurant was extremely delicious. It was affordable and delicious. More importantly, the owner of this restaurant was a fan of Honor of Honor. Based on the ranking of Honor, he could give different discounts. The highest ranking, which was the top 5 of the Honor of Honor, could get a 50% discount. They could also be personally received by the owner and have priority to eat. There was an endless stream of people who coveted the delicious food, and there were even more people who were poisoned by the pesticide. Therefore, apart from the locals, there were also many tourists who came to eat. Unfortunately, among Li Jianhua's group, Li Jianhua and Yu Chulin were not very interested in this game. The highest ranking was Li Mosen. He was the Honor of Honor, but he was only ranked 6th in the district. Therefore, they waited for an hour just to queue up. A group of people sat in the queue at the entrance of the restaurant and played games. It was noisy and full of vitality. Occasionally, someone saw them and was attracted by their appearance. Someone looked at them and said, "Do you still need more people? Join me, I'll carry you." The person who spoke was a young man who looked like a student. When he spoke, he looked at Li Jianhua with a smile. Li Jianhua's appearance was the most outstanding among the 3 girls. Her skin was unbelievably fair and her facial features were also like Su Qianxi's. She was charming and beautiful. Li Jianhua was about to answer when she heard Li Mosen say, "No, that's enough." The person looked a little disappointed. When he returned to his friends, he was pushed and laughed at by a few of them. Li Jianhua looked at Sun Xiangxiang, who was 0 to 9, and felt a little guilty. She said weakly, "Brother Mosen, am I too weak? I'm not a noob. I'm much better than Moyun," Li Mosen said with a smile. When Li Moyun heard this, he immediately became indignant and said, "Brother Mosen, what you said is not very appropriate. One look at my 18 to 3 Luna and you can tell that I'm very strong." Li Jianhua also felt that Li Mosen was lying through his teeth. "I know it myself," Li Mosen said. "In a while, your record will be better than his." Li Moyun snorted disdainfully. "She wouldn't be stronger than me even if I shared half of my strength with her." Oh Xiao Xiao also nodded. "Mo Yun is quite good at games." "Well, Brother Mosen, you're too biased." Even Rong Pan Pan couldn't stand it anymore. "Although Moyun is easy to bully, you can't say that." Li Moyun said, "Hey, who are you helping by saying that?" The girls giggled. Li Moyun was unconvinced and said, "Let's change the lineup this time. I'll lead Xiao Xiao and Pan Pan and you'll lead Ursu. What do you think?" Xiao Xiao and Pan Pan were still alright as they were a little familiar with the game. Although Ursu was no stranger to it, she would only be bullied by Li Moyun. Li Ursu was indignant and said, "There are only 3 of you. I'm not convinced." Doesn't Brother Chu know how to play too? Let's play together, Li Moyun said with a sneaky smile. Brother Chu has also downloaded the game on his phone. I saw it yesterday. Brother Mosen is so good, it shouldn't be a problem for you to lead Brother Chu, right? Chapter 2191. As the protagonist, Yu Chulin immediately turned to look at him when he heard that. Li Moyun smiled slyly and asked, Brother Chu, do you know how to play this game? I do, Yu Chulin answered subtly. A little. Oh. Li Moyun trusted Yu Chulin very much and said, a little. Let's play then. You, Brother Mosen, and my sister will form a team. I'll bring the cute Xiao Xiao and Pan Pan. What do you think? Sure. Yu Chulin agreed readily, and this made Li Moyun smile happily. Although he was a little reckless when it came to playing games, he was still a champion who had fought his way up. Oh, Xiao Xiao was quite talented and was already a star. Rong Pan Pan was already at the peak of platinum and was only one step away from diamond. On the other hand, Li Jianhua was a rookie. Although Li Mosen was powerful, how could he play with a rookie and a newbie? Li Moyun was already calculating in his mind and said, let's make this clear first. Whoever loses will have to pay for today's meal. Sure. Yu Chulin was very straightforward and had already taken out his phone. Go ahead. After Yu Chulin logged in, he immediately clicked on it. Everyone realized that Yu Chulin didn't even have a rank. Li Moyun chuckled and clicked on the 5v5 map. He invited the three of them and then entered the team. Li Jianxian sat at the side and watched them fight with each other. He smiled and said, you guys play then. I'll order the dishes later. Okay. No problem. No one had any objections. After each of them chose their hero, they immediately entered the battlefield. Li Moyun keenly noticed that Yu Chulin had chosen a hero that was free for a limited time. It was a jungler hero that was more difficult. Li Bai. The sword immortal, Li Bai, was dressed in a white robe and had short hair. A wine gourd hung on his waist and he drank from it from time to time. He held a long sword in his hand and a hearty laughter could be heard when he clicked on it. The water of the great river flows from the sky to the sea and never returns. F***ck it's Li Bai. Rong Pan Pan exclaimed in shock. Li Jianrui saw it too and immediately stopped him. No, Brother Chu. However, the moment Li Jianrui spoke, Yu Chulin had already clicked on the confirm button. It's over. In a non-ranking match, once the chosen hero was confirmed, it could not be changed. Yu Chulin looked a little confused as he asked, what's wrong? Li Jianhua looked as if she had nothing left to live for. She said, it's over. This person is very difficult. I've been learning for a long time, but I still haven't learned how to play. His HP is low and his positioning has to be very, very tricky. It's all right. Yu Chulin chuckled. I'll give it a try. Ha 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 ha. Li Moyun could already see the light at the end of the tunnel. Just give it a try. You'll only get better if you try. If you don't give it a try, how will you know how terrible your death will be? Li Jianhua's gloating words made Li Jianhua even angrier. She reached out and pinched him. Li Moyun squealed like a pig. Ouch, ouch, ouch. It's okay, Li Mosen said. Ursu, you play what you're good at. Li Moyun grinned and said, don't worry, there's nothing she's good at. Ah. Li Jianhua was so angry that she kicked him again and said, who said that? I know how to play as a sorcerer. I'm very good at playing as Zhuge Liang. That's right. It's because it's faster to escape, isn't it? Chapter 2192. Zhuge Liang was a famous military counselor during the Three Kingdoms period. He played the role of a sorcerer in honor of kings. His second skill was three-stage displacement, which allowed him to run very fast. The main reason why Li Jianhua liked to play Zhuge Liang was because he was handsome and had a pleasant voice. However, Li Jianhua's maneuvering was really not flattering. Li Jianhua looked at Li Mosen angrily and said, Brother Mosen, what should I play? Let's play Zhuge Liang. The main thing is to be happy. But what if we lose? If we lose, we lose. Playing games is originally entertainment. Li Mosen smiled and reached out to rub Li Jianhua's head. What are you afraid of? Even if we lose, it's my treat. That's right. Li Moyun smiled brightly and his chubby face looked like a flower was about to bloom. If we lose, we lose. Brother Mosen won't blame you. Anyway, Brother Chu is also a newbie. If you want to cheat him, you can cheat him together. Li Moyun. Li Jianhua was angry. Don't you have a conscience when you compare me to a newbie? Yes, it hurts. So hurry up and play Zhuge Liang. Let me calm down. Oh, Xiao Xiao laughed. Moyun, you're so bad. Rong Panpan couldn't stand it anymore and said, "Why don't I switch positions with Ursu? Ursu will be in your team and I will be in Mosin and Brother Chu's team. In that case the difference in strength wouldn't be too big." "No, that's meaningless," Li Moyun said seriously. "It's a battle between me and Ursu. Don't you think so, Ursu?" While the few of them were joking around, Li Jianyue had already chosen Zhuge Liang, while Li Mosin had chosen Miyamoto Musashi, who he was better at. Miyamoto Musashi was a Japanese swordsman who was invincible. In fact, he was indeed very invincible. When he was at his peak, he could easily escape from 5 opponents. Although his strength had been reduced, he was still relatively strong compared to many other heroes. Li Moyun laughed when he saw the lineup. Because he knew that Li Jianyue wanted to play Zhuge Liang, Li Moyun cheekily chose a more difficult hero, Luna. Luna could leave a mark on the enemy's body. As long as there was a mark, the 3 skills could be used indefinitely. What was even more despicable was that the second skill could use the beauty of the Moonlight Goddess to attract you. Even if Zhuge Liang ran fast, he would still be sucked in. Li Mosin's lineup was Miyamoto Musashi, Zhuge Liang, and Li Bai. On Li Moyun's side were Luna, Zhang Fei, and Sun Shangxiang. Sun Shangxiang was an archer. With one skill she could roll everywhere. Every time she rolled, she would hit someone. She could kill someone. As for Zhang Fei, he was a very ugly and burly man. Zhang Fei's greatest fear was his 3 skills. With Zhang Fei's original ugly appearance, with the addition of these 3 skills, he could directly knock out the enemy because of his ugliness. Enemies who were so ugly that they could only be defeated by their opponents, unable to retaliate at all. When Li Jianyue saw the lineup of the other party, her face fell. She said, "Brother Mosin, I think we're going to fail. Don't be afraid. Just don't die." But in reality it was very difficult to keep Li Jianyue alive. Some people were not only bad at playing but they also loved to wander around. Li Jianyue was such a person. In the blink of an eye she had died 3 times. Li Jianyue felt wronged and said, "Can't you guys go easy on me?" "No." Li Moyun was elated. But soon he was surprised and said, "Brother Chu seems to be quite good at playing. You even know how to grow in the wilderness. Damn, you even know how to beat the tyrant?" The tyrant was a small boss and king of glory with a lot of money. The big boss was called the king. Chapter 2193. Yu Chulin, on the other hand, managed to defeat the tyrant king amidst the cries of, "Oh no!" Li Moyun immediately felt a sense of crisis. He moved stealthily on the battlefield and moved towards the hero that Yu Chulin was using. However, just as he appeared, he saw that Yu Chulin's Li Bai only had a little health left. He only needed one more slash and he would be able to kill Li Bai. Li Moyun laughed and said, "I'm coming. I want both the tyrant king and Li Bai's head." However, just as he finished speaking, he suddenly saw a string of symbols fall from above his head. Then the hero that he was controlling, Luna, was directly controlled and was stunned. Luna could not fight back at all. System notification. Miyamoto Musashi defeated Luna. Li Bai defeated Tyrant. Li Moyun immediately shouted, "D***, that's too despicable. Why did you sneak attack me?" "There's no need for a reason to sneak attack, fatty," Li Mosin announced expressionlessly as he lowered his head to fight the wild monsters. Li Moyun felt as if he had been shot in the heart. His face was full of grief and indignation as he said, "I'll make you regret saying that." Li Mosin gave a heartless sneer and then directly stole Father Blue, which Luna relied on to survive. Li Moyun held his long sword and looked at the empty birthplace of Father Blue. He roared again, "I'll go to your house to steal Father Blue." "Come on, I'll leave it for you," Yu Chulin said. So Li Moyun really went. However, as soon as he arrived, he saw Li Bai there killing small monsters. After hesitating for a moment, Li Moyun specially looked at the financial gap between the 2 parties. He only dared to go out after he was sure that Miyamoto Musashi was not around. Yu Chulin was not very good at playing. After he was sure that he could fight Li Bai one-on-one, he ran out with his sword. However, almost at the same time, Li Bai suddenly drew a circle to restrict Luna's movement. Then Zhuge Liang jumped out from the bushes. Li Moyun shouted, "You guys are too much. Too much. Too much." Zhuge Liang manipulated the flashbang to cripple him. Li Jianyue laughed and said, come on, come and bully me." Li Moyun was so frightened that he hurriedly ran away. However, even though he managed to escape, his HP had been reduced to a small amount. Li Jianyue and Yu Chulin didn't know how to play the game. If it was someone who was good at controlling the game, any one of them would be able to crush him to the ground. Li Moyun angrily found a bush and returned to the city. He shouted, "It's never too late for a gentleman to take revenge. Emoyun, be careful." Oh, Xiao Xiao shouted. "Miyamoto is going over." However, it was too late. System notification. Miyamoto Musashi defeated Luna. Li Moyun sniffled and said pitifully, "Can you kill someone else? You can kill both Xiao Xiao and Sister Pan Pan." No. Li Jinyue shook her head seriously. "They're not as fat as you." His words made his friends burst into laughter. Li Moyun clicked on Yu Chulin's battle record and realized that even though Yu Chulin was not very good at playing, he was very conscious about not fooling around outside. Hence, Li Moyun egged him on, "Brother Chu, don't always stay at home. Why don't you come out and play?" Yu Chulin smiled. "You said it yourself." Li Moyun smiled and said, "Yes, yes, I said it." Li Jinyue exclaimed, "Brother Chu, don't be fooled by him. He's fooling you to kill yourself." Li Mosen also said, "You won't lose if you don't go out." When Yu Chulin heard this, he smiled slightly and said meaningfully, "Not necessarily." Chapter 2194. Everyone thought that Yu Chulin was definitely a newbie. Therefore no one paid much attention to him. However, no one expected that not only was Yu Chulin not a newbie, but he was also very good at it. Although his mechanics still looked a little jerky, the contrast between what everyone thought was a noob at the beginning was shocking enough. Later on, Li Mosen won. Miyamoto Musashi, who was played by Li Mosen, won with a high score of 15 points. Yu Chulin's score was the lowest. Li Moyun was very unconvinced. He retorted with his hands on his hips, but very quickly he obediently paid the bill. The weekend passed quickly. Everyone had a good time. Li Jinyue was in a good mood when she returned to school. She carried her school bag and sat down humming a tune. The surrounding boys and girls came to Li Jinyue and greeted her. Li Jinyue felt that her new classmates were really too enthusiastic. After greeting them one by one, a little girl walked over with a red face and said, "Jinyue, I know you are Senior Li Mosen's sister. Can you help me pass this letter to Senior Li?" Li Jinyue was stunned for a moment. Looking at the girl's red cheeks, she couldn't bear to refuse and quickly nodded. "Sure." The girl was wild with joy. She nodded frantically and shouted, "Then wait for me." Li Jinyue's hands were filled with little love letters. Looking at the little pink envelope and the passionate gazes from the surrounding people, she suddenly felt that she had done a very good thing. The girl quickly returned with a beautiful box in her hand. At one glance, it was obvious that it was a small gift that had been carefully prepared. The girl felt the surrounding gazes and her face became even redder. She said, "This is a gift that I specially prepared. It's chocolate." As she said that, she quickly placed it on the table in front of Li Jinyue, as if she was afraid that she would refuse. She even said, "Please, I hope that you must pass it to Senior Li Mosen. Please, please, I really, really like Mosen. Hey." A young voice with obvious impatience sounded. "If you want to confess, don't block my seat." Li Jinyue was sitting. When she heard this voice, she looked up. Quan Jingyi looked as if he hadn't woken up yet. His expression said, "I have a bad temper. Don't provoke me." At this moment, he was frowning with a face full of impatience. He squinted his eyes as if he was looking at the back of the girl's head, but also as if he wasn't looking anywhere. He then added impatiently, "And do you know that you're so ugly? No matter who you confess to, you won't succeed." This sentence made the students in the class who were watching burst into laughter. *CK, his mouth is too poisonous. But what he said isn't wrong. She wants the school hunk to confess to her with her looks. Where did she get her face from? But she gave me confidence. I didn't dare to confess before, but now I'm going to confess. My chances of winning are definitely higher than hers. The girl's originally blushing face immediately turned red. She pinched the side of her school uniform and ran away with an embarrassed look on her face. Quan Jingyi tossed his bag aside and sat on the chair. Just as Quan Jingyi sat down, the bell for class rang. The students who had been watching the commotion dispersed. Only a small number of girls lowered their heads and whispered to each other. Their disdainful gazes swept in the direction of the girl just now. Chapter 2195. Li Jinyue felt sorry for the girl when she saw her like this. Quan Jingyi had already picked up the book and threw it on the table. Then he lay down. Li Jinyue looked at Quan Jingyi, who acted as if nothing had happened. She felt a little indignant and whispered, "Quan Jingyi." Quan Jingyi didn't seem to hear her and didn't move. Li Jinyue knew that he could hear her voice and continued, "You're too much." Her voice wasn't loud, but it was enough for them to hear. Li Jianyue took out the book and opened it. Quan Jingyi finally reacted. He raised his head and glanced at her. Then he sneered, "What does it have to do with you?" Li Jianyue glared at him. This person was really too annoying. Li Jianyue felt a lump of anger in her heart. She's a girl. What can she do if you talk about her like this in front of so many people? Look at her. She's about to cry. Quan Jingyi didn't even look at that person. He glanced at Li Jianyue. What does it have to do with me that she likes to cry? She cried because of you. No, Quan Jingyi stretched lazily. She cried because of her own ugliness. Li Jianyue was speechless for a moment. The anger in her heart was even more intense. Damn it. This be *tc. Li Jianyue had never hated someone so much since she was young. The teacher came soon. Li Jianyue had no choice but to suppress her anger and turn her head to read the book sullenly. But she was too angry. Li Jianyue couldn't bear to read a word. Li Jianyue didn't know what the teacher said in class. She held a pen and drew an ugly face. Then she wrote the words Quan Jingyi next to it. Then she made dense pockmarks on his face. Li Jianyue poked and poked for a long time, but she didn't feel comfortable. Suddenly Quan Jingyi turned his head. Li Jianyue noticed it and turned to look. Quan Jingyi glanced at the things on her paper. Then he raised his thick eyebrows and tilted his head slightly. He said, "The teacher asked you to answer the question." Li Jianyue was a little confused. She was indeed in a daze just now, but it shouldn't be like this, right? However, when Li Jianyue turned her head to look to the side, she realized that there were indeed people looking at her. Li Jianyue looked at the pile of formulas on the blackboard and stood up silently. The math teacher was a middle-aged man with thick glasses. His white shirt was neatly tucked into his black pants. His appearance was very clean and decent, but he was an old-fashioned old cadre. When Teacher Hao saw Li Jianyue stand up, he pushed up his glasses and asked, "Do you have any questions?" Li Jianyue was stunned by his question. She then asked, "Didn't you ask me to answer the question?" Teacher Hao's gaze became meaningful as he looked at Quan Jingyi. Li Jianyue finally understood and looked at Quan Jingyi. She saw Quan Jingyi's black head, which was covered by curly black hair, tremble slightly. Even his shoulders were shaking. Obviously he was smiling. Li Jianyue's face turned red. Teacher Hao said, "Student, you still have to be more serious in class. It's high school now. It's different from junior high. Some students shouldn't take pleasure in teasing other students to avoid hurting the harmony." Quan Jingyi's voice was clear and bright. "Teacher, this student secretly drew me in class." Chapter 2196. As soon as Quan Jingyi's voice fell, the students in the class seemed to have caught hold of some big gossip and began to make a ruckus. Wow, what does Li Jianyue mean by this? Damn, isn't this Senior Mosen's sister? Could it be that she likes Quan Jingyi? But it's true. Although Quan Jingyi's reputation isn't very good, he's still quite handsome. The discussions of the surrounding students quickly reached Li Jianyue's ears. Li Jianyue already felt embarrassed. Now that she was being discussed like this, she felt even more ashamed. She turned her head and glared at Quan Jingyi. She was so angry that her face turned red. Unlike her, Quan Jingyi seemed to be in a good mood. He turned his head slowly. Li Jianyue was ashamed and embarrassed, but she couldn't say anything. Soon the class ended. Li Jianyue stood up angrily and shouted at Quan Jingyi, "Are you shameless? How can you say such a thing? Who has a crush on you?" Li Jianyue had never spoken loudly. At this moment she was angry and her voice was a little louder, but it didn't sound threatening. Quan Jingyi raised his eyebrows slightly. "I didn't say such things. You said it yourself." Quan Jingyi spoke lazily. He wasn't loud. The young man's voice sounded very gentle. Immediately, the people in the class who had come to watch the commotion immediately formed a group and said, "So that's how it is. So Li Jianyue has a crush on Quan Jingyi. *ck, you can really do whatever you want if you're handsome. But other than this face, Quan Jingyi doesn't have anything else good. Li Jianyue is also very beautiful, but why is her taste so bad?" Li Jianyue was so angry that her whole body was trembling. She slammed her fist on the table heavily. Her little face turned red and she shouted, "I don't." As she said that, her eyes turned red. She looked at Quan Jingyi and stared at him with slightly red eyes. "Why are you so annoying?" When Quan Jingyi heard this, his face seemed to be troubled. He said, "You like me one moment and hate me the next. Why are you girls so strange?" "I don't like you." Li Jianyue stomped her feet in anger. Her voice became much sharper because of her anger. Her eyes reddened as she said, "My 3 brothers are much better than you. Brother Chu is gentle, my brother is smart, and Brother Mosen treats me the best. Who do you think you are? I'm not blind. Quan Jingyi just wanted to tease her. He didn't expect her to refute him so seriously. Quan Jingyi was stunned for a moment. He raised his body slightly and looked at the little girl who was staring at him condescendingly. He was so angry that his face was flushed with anger. He clenched his fists tightly, as if he had done something heinous and unforgivable. At that moment, the young lady seemed to be in a hurry to prove something. She pounded the table again and said, I, Li Jianyue, will like anyone but you. You're just a rubbish man who only knows how to bully girls. Even my younger brother knows that girls can't be bullied. You're worse than an elementary school student. Li Moyun, a primary school student, sneezed violently in his year 2 class. All the students in the class heard what Li Jianyue said and began to shout, so that's how it is. Is it because Quan Jingyi likes Li Jianyue and is too embarrassed to confess, so he deliberately said that she has a crush on him? Li Jianyue's words were not very damaging, but it couldn't stop the people next to her from jeering. Chapter 2197. Quan Jingyi turned his head away and stood up from his seat. As he yawned, he raised his hands and stretched. The aura that Li Jianyue had just gathered was bumped by his lazy waist. She subconsciously dodged to the side. However, the little bit of domineering aura he had just now disappeared with this dodge. The surrounding girls suddenly became excited. Li Jianyue turned back and the little girls pushed and shoved each other. All of them looked at Quan Jingyi with flushed faces. His eyes were practically glowing. Quan Jingyi walked out of his seat lazily. His footsteps were slow and frivolous. He raised his face slightly. Wherever he went, boys and girls subconsciously made way for him. When Quan Jingyi walked far away, the girls screamed excitedly and shouted, "Oh my God, he's so handsome." Is Quan Jingyi so handsome? He's just a delinquent, sob sob sob. Li Jianyue was furious. She took the book on the table and slammed it on the table. She was so angry that she sat down heavily. Bah! How could someone with such a bad character be handsome? He was even worse than a primary school student. Li Moyun, who was sitting in the grade 2 class, sneezed again. After Quan Jingyi walked out, he went directly to the big tree beside the lawn behind the teaching building. It was past 9 in the morning and the sun was just right. The playground was on the other side. It was a quiet corner of the school. There were not many students coming and going, so no one noticed that Quan Jingyi had come to this place. He climbed up briskly and found a comfortable tree branch to lie down. Soon the bell rang. Quan Jingyi yawned and fell asleep comfortably. Grade 1-11. This was the class teacher's class. The class teacher's surname was Huang. It was said that she used to be the prettiest girl in the class when she was young. Later, she was severely tortured by time and now she had become a withered flower. A naughty boy in the class gave her a nickname, Daylily. Daylily called Quan Jingyi's name several times but no one answered. She looked up and asked with a serious face, "Is Quan Jingyi here?" A male student shouted, "He just left after class. He probably went to the toilet." "You haven't come back from the toilet yet?" Daylily was already showing signs of getting angry. Someone else said, "Maybe it's constipation." The class roared with laughter. Daylily looked at Li Jianyue and saw the little girl's round and cute little face. Her expression softened a little and she asked, "Classmate Li, you are Quan Jingyi's desk mate. Do you know where he went?" How would she know? She just quarreled with Quan Jingyi. A male classmate chimed in. That's right. Quan Jingyi almost made the girl cry. He's so ungentlemanly and shameless. He actually said that she likes him. I think he likes Li Jianyue himself. Ha 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 ha. The more Daylily listened, the darker her face became. She reached out and slapped the podium, shouting, "Silence! The more you talk, the more outrageous it is. How long has it been since the start of school? How can you just randomly find a partner for your classmates? What will happen in the future?" But when he thought about it, he felt that it was incredible. When Li Jianyue entered school, her parents gave her a generous gift. She wanted to take good care of her daughter. How could she let her fall in love at this time? Daylily couldn't stand it anymore. After arranging for them to study, she asked Li Jianyue to talk to her alone. She also asked someone to find out where Quan Jingyi went. Li Jianyue, angry, who's in love? Li Mosen, serious, no, you must change positions. Chapter 2198. After Li Jianyue came back from chatting with the homeroom teacher, her face was sullen for the entire class. Li Jianyue looked like Su Qianxi. She was fair and tender, and her whole body exuded an aura of spirituality. At this time, even if she had a straight face, it was still particularly attractive. After the morning class, Quan Jingyi did not come back again. Lunch break soon arrived. The boys in the class were fighting and the girls went to the toilet in groups of 3 to 5. Li Jianhua did not have many friends in the class. She packed her bag and subconsciously looked at the window. Every time the last class in the morning ended, Li Mosen would come to look for her. But today she did not know if he was busy or delayed, but he had not come until now. Li Jianhua stood up and met a male classmate. The male classmate's face was a little red. He looked at Li Jianhua and said, "Li Jianhua, I have something to tell you." "Go ahead. It's not convenient here. Come with me." The male classmate looked down at Li Jianhua's hand on the table. It seemed like he wanted to do something but he did not do anything. He turned around and left. Li Jianhua did not take it to heart and quickly followed him to the back of the school building. The place here was empty and the sun was blazing. The wind blew through the hall, and Li Jianhua's little skirt swayed with it. A few strands of her hair were also blown into a mess. The male classmate held a small envelope in his hand and handed it to her with both hands. As if emboldening himself, he said in a slightly loud voice, "Li Jianhua, a friend of mine asked me to give this to you. His name is inside. I hope that after you see the contents, you can give me an answer." Li Jianhua looked down at the white envelope in his hand. It looked bare and there was nothing written on it. She reached out and took it. Li Jianhua had no intention of opening it. She asked, "Is this the matter?" The male classmate looked very disappointed with Li Jianhua's reaction. Then he did not know where to put his hands and wiped them on his trousers. Then he took out his cell phone and said, "Can you add me on WeChat?" "Sure." Li Jianhua didn't suspect anything. She took his phone and keyed in her number. Li Jianhua's WeChat nickname was newly changed. It was called Buddhist Beauty, Little Sun. Just as Li Jianhua finished typing this string of numbers, the phone in her pocket vibrated. Without a doubt it was Li Mosen. It sounded a little noisy on Li Mosen's side. It was the voices of his classmates around him. "Ursu, where did you go?" "Oh, nothing. A classmate was looking for me just now." "Where are you? Why are you so late?" Li Jianhua's voice was crisp and clear. She didn't hide her rebuke at all. Her sweet voice made the male student in front of her blush as he looked up at her. Li Mosen sounded like he was in a good mood. "I just encountered something pleasant today. Let's go. I'll treat you to dinner to celebrate." She quickly gave him the address and hung up the phone. Then she looked at the male classmate and smiled apologetically. "Sorry, I have to go eat with my brother. I'll be leaving first." The little boy blushed. Yes. Li Jianhua quickly ran away briskly. The little boy looked at Li Jianhua's back. The heart in his chest was beating especially happily. Just as he was intoxicated, a sudden gust of wind whistled above his head. A huge shadow instantly shrouded him. The little boy was so scared that he screamed. He took a big step back and fell to the ground. He turned his head and realized that it was a person. After taking a closer look, he asked, "Quan Jingyi?" Quan Jingyi was sleepy. After yawning, he turned his head and looked over lazily. Then he walked over and looked down at him. The little boy swallowed his saliva and stammered, What do you want?" Chapter 2199. When the little boy saw this, he was a little confused. He subconsciously covered the phone in his pocket and asked, "What do you want?" The midday sun was a little bright. Quan Jingyi narrowed his eyes slightly and looked down at him with a faint smile. He looked a little lazy and a little helpless. He asked, "Are you going to give it to me or not?" The little boy looked at Quan Jingyi and wanted to say no. But when he looked at Quan Jingyi's face, he subconsciously thought of the arrogant rumors about Quan Jingyi. His whole body couldn't help but tense up a little. The words of refusal were on the tip of his tongue, but he swallowed them back down. He pinched his pocket and then turned his head. Finally he took out his phone and pushed it forward. "You have to tell me what you want." Quan Jingyi looked at him and said lazily, "What are you afraid of?" "I just want to add you on WeChat." The little boy couldn't believe it. He looked up and looked at the tree that Quan Jingyi had just jumped down from. His face turned red and he said, "Did you see everything?" Quan Jingyi narrowed his eyes and looked at him. "See what?" "You're confessing to a girl here and you don't dare to say it clearly. You have to say that someone else gave you a love letter?" The little boy's face turned even redder. Quan Jingyi sneered and said, "Don't worry. That Li Jianhua is so slow. She won't find out that the person who gave her the love letter is you." It would have been better if Quan Jingyi hadn't said it. The little boy immediately became a little worried. Yes, Li Jianhua looked quite innocent. If he said that, it would be difficult for her to find out that the person was him. Just as he was feeling bewildered, he suddenly heard Quan Jingyi say, "Hey." The little boy suddenly came back to his senses and looked up. Huh. Quan Jingyi waved his phone in front of his eyes and said, "Unlock it." Okay. He pressed his fingerprint obediently. After the little boy unlocked the phone, he saw Quan Jingyi standing lazily with his head down and tapping on his phone. Quan Jingyi had just taken his phone and opened WeChat. Coincidentally, as soon as he took it, a new friend notification popped up. "Beautiful Buddha-like girl, little son. We're already friends. Come and have a chat." Quan Jingyi narrowed his eyes and looked up at the trembling little boy in front of him. The little boy was wearing a pair of thin glasses, and when he was stared at like this, he immediately lowered his head. After a few seconds, Quan Jingyi tossed his phone back to him. The little boy immediately checked. There were a total of 2 new additions and notifications. Before he could react, Quan Jingyi turned around and prepared to leave. That. The little boy looked at Quan Jingyi and said unwillingly, "Did you add Li Jianyue's WeChat?" Without turning his head, Quan Jingyi said lazily, "Don't you know how to read the records yourself?" Hearing that, the little boy immediately lowered his head. He noticed that the 2 new friend requests were the same classic greeting. "We're already friends, let's chat." He breathed a sigh of relief and put the phone back into his pocket. At that time he had not studied WeChat thoroughly. In their era most people used QQ. Therefore he didn't know that WeChat had the function to delete a single message. By the time he found out, it was already too late. When he returned home in the evening, he happily took out his phone and found that Li Jianyue had posted a WeChat moments. "Beautiful Buddha-like girl, little son. Wow, mom cooked personally again. How stupid." The attached picture was a very exquisite home-cooked dish with 9 squares. The last picture was a selfie of the little girl with a kitten emoji. It looked very pink and cute. Seeing that it was posted less than a minute ago, he immediately liked it. However, the next second, a new notification popped up. Chapter 2200. Quan Jingyi had liked it. It was time to post on WeChat Moments? When did Quan Jingyi add Li Jianyue? What the F***? The little boy's heart suddenly felt like it had been hit 100,000 times. So, Quan Jingyi took his phone over to add Li Jianyue's WeChat, right? So, in fact, Quan Jingyi also liked Li Jianyue, right? If Quan Jingyi also liked Li Jianyue with Quan Jingyi's qualifications, he was really, completely inferior to him. His heart instantly felt as if it was scratching his heart and lungs. If he had known this, he would never have let Quan Jingyi take his phone. After Li Jianyue finished eating, she touched her little belly and leaned on the sofa with a satisfied expression. Li Mosen was specially invited to be a representative of the school basketball team today, representing the school to participate in the city-level high school basketball game. Li Jianyue thought about it and decided to post a WeChat Moments to congratulate him. As soon as she picked up her phone, she saw many new notifications on WeChat Moments. "Xiao Xiao, I want to eat too. Pan Pan, Aunt's cooking is really good, I envy you, cry." There were also all kinds of envious comments from other classmates and playmates since childhood. The rest were all likes. Among the 3 or 4 lines of likes, Li Jianyue saw a simple and fresh profile picture. It was a comic boy in red clothes with his head tilted. He had a cigarette in his mouth and wore a gray hat on his head. He looked like he was standing lazily. There was a letter written on his clothes, "Y." Li Jianyue recognized who it was at a glance. In the afternoon she added 2 new friends, one first and one later. The one who added her later was the one who sent her the love letter. The other was the male student who helped to pass the message, which was the boy in the afternoon. And this comic boy in the red shirt was undoubtedly the one who had sent her the love letter. The content of that love letter was actually very simple and very old-fashioned. There were 5 or 6 lines of words which read, "Dear Li Jianyue, hello. Maybe you don't know what my name is, but from the moment you entered the class, I have been deeply attracted to you. I never knew that a girl could be so cute. She smiled, moved, and even when she was angry she looked like a goddess in my heart. I think this is love. You have succeeded in breaking into my heart. Li Jianyue, I like you very much. Please be with me. A boy who has a crush on you, Yang Zihao." In fact, Li Jianyue had no impression of this name at all. However, her upbringing from a young age made her feel that it would be very embarrassing and impolite to say such words in front of others. After thinking about it, Li Jianyue decided to reject him tactfully. She didn't plan to fall in love in high school, and she didn't have any interest in a strange boy. He clicked on the person's chat box, clicked on the word "Send a Message," and wrote, "Hello, Student Yang. I'm happy that you like me, but I won't fall in love. I hope we can learn and improve together in the future. In the end, he even sent a handshake emoji. After confirming that there were no problems, Li Jianyue sent it out. Ding dong. Quan Jingyi was drying his hair after showering. His phone vibrated as he passed by the table. Seeing such a long string of words, Quan Jingyi raised his eyebrows slightly. Then he understood what Li Jianyue meant. This guy really thought of him as the so-called friend of the male student in the afternoon. Chapter 2201. The inexplicable reply made Li Jianrui a little confused. He looked up and down at the words he had sent. Between the lines, it felt like he was rejecting her. How was it gentle? Before Li Jianrui could think clearly, she received another message from the other side. This time Yang Zihao said, "I can't help but fall for you." Li Jianrui was speechless. Were all boys so good at talking nowadays? If they could fall for him like this, she really didn't know what kind of attitude she had to use to stop the boys from falling for her. Li Jianrui thought about it and decided not to reply. If she didn't reply, there would be no hope, right? When Li Mosen came out of the shower, he saw Li Jianrui sitting on the sofa at home. She looked distressed and was holding her phone. Li Jianrui seemed to notice that Li Mosen had come out and looked up. The distressed expression on her face was even more obvious. She said, "Brother Mosen, have you ever liked a girl?" Li Mosen almost choked on his saliva. His first reaction to her question was, did she sense his thoughts about her? So, was this a test? But as soon as this thought came up, Li Mosen was denied by his own rationality. Impossible. Li Jianrui couldn't have this kind of intelligence. Li Mosen calmed himself down and asked, "Why are you suddenly asking this?" Li Jianrui didn't notice Li Mosen's strangeness at all. She said with a bitter face, "No, I'm just asking." Li Mosen sat down calmly and asked, "Why do you suddenly want to ask?" "Well," Li Jianrui looked at Li Mosen with her head tilted and said honestly, "Someone wrote me a love letter today." Li Mosen stopped drying his hair and looked at her. Li Jianrui continued, "Didn't you look for me later? After we added each other on WeChat, I rejected him on WeChat. Then he said this to me." Li Jianrui showed the phone to Li Mosen. There were only a few sentences in the chat. Li Mosen finished reading it at a glance. Finally, his gaze fell on the name that Li Jianrui had given this person. Yang Zihao. Li Mosen remembered this name and looked up at the little girl in front of him. "How do you want to reply?" The last message was sent by Yang Zihao. Li Jianrui had no intention of replying. Li Jianrui was confused and said, "I don't know either." "I'll reply for you." Li Jianrui nodded immediately. He moved his butt away a little and patted the spot beside him. Then he sat down naturally. Li Jianrui's little head immediately leaned over and looked at Li Mosen's slender fingers typing. "Ha!" Li Jianrui looked at it and felt that something was wrong. These two words, together with the exclamation mark, felt like a curse. Just as she was about to say something, Li Mosen continued, "Oh, then you can fall for it." Then Li Mosen dragged the WeChat account into the blacklist. Quan Jingyi, who had received these words, was drinking water. Seeing this, his eyelids twitched. Even the act of drinking water became a little difficult. How could Li Jianrui say such a thing? You really can't judge a book by its cover. Quan Jingyi replied with an ellipsis. Then a red warning sign appeared. You are no longer a friend of this person. Please add him or her again. Quan Jingyi. Chapter 2202. Li Mosen looked at Li Mosen's actions in a daze and said, "Brother Mosen, that's not very good." Li Mosen looked up at her and asked, "Why not?" Isn't that too rude?" Li Mosen raised his eyelids and said, "Polite? If you are polite to this kind of person, then he will pester you to the end. Do you want to be pestered by him?" "I don't think so." Li Jianrui didn't feel that this person had brought her much trouble at all. She continued, "In any case, he is my classmate. If I really blocked him like this, then what should I do during the class gatherings in the future? Also, students in the same class will always see each other. That would be very awkward." Li Mosen looked at her with a somewhat helpless expression and said, "Silly girl, don't worry. It's okay. You are doing the right thing." Li Jianrui wrinkled her nose and said, "But I don't like doing this. Brother Mosen, return my phone to me." Li Mosen raised his hand and pointed his finger at the tip of her nose. He said, "I am doing this for your own good. You probably don't know, right?" "What?" Li Jianrui asked. Li Mosen said, "I've encountered such a thing before." Li Jianrui nodded. Li Mosen's appearance was really too outstanding. She was already used to such things. A pair of big and round eyes looked at him and asked, "And then? Is that how you solved it?" Li Mosen shook his head. "No, I didn't solve it like that at that time. So, at that time, the girl took advantage of the situation and went around saying that I gave her a chance. She even announced that she was my girlfriend." Li Jianyue's eyes widened in disbelief. "It can't be. Did you actually agree to it?" Li Mosen looked helpless. "Of course not. I said that I won't fall in love at such a young age." Li Jianyue immediately nodded. "Yes, it's not good to fall in love at such a young age. Dad and Mom hate it, so we can't fall in love at such a young age." After Li Jianyue finished speaking, she continued to ask, "What happened next?" "After that, I was harassed by that female classmate," Li Mosen continued after a pause. "For quite a long time. And then? Later, during an outdoor activity, I told her not to do this. It would make me hate her very much. And then? Then she started crying, saying that I let her down, that I cheated on her feelings, and that I must expose my bad behavior." When Li Mosen talked about this, he looked a little angry, but he felt more helpless. "If I had rejected her directly at that time, and didn't even leave her contact information, things would not have happened later." Li Jianyue had never thought that there would be such a shameless person in this world. However, when she thought about it, she felt that it wasn't right. How could a girl be so shameless? Li Jianyue thought for a moment and asked, "Brother Mosen, is what you said true? Why would I lie to you? That girl is still my classmate. All my friends know about this. I'll get them to tell you at lunch tomorrow." "Wow!" Li Jianyue exclaimed. "What about the truth? Brother Mosen, did you play with her feelings?" "I just didn't delete her contact information." Chapter 2203. It was terrifying to think about it. Who would have thought of such a thing? It was impossible to guard against it. Sure enough, the outside world was too messy. Li Jianyue decided that for safety's sake, it was better to add her classmate's WeChat. Li Jianyue thought about it and blocked his friend's WeChat as well. Li Mosen was very pleased. "You're worth teaching." Li Jianyue chuckled and quickly returned to her room with her phone. Yang Zihao pondered for a long time before he decided to send a WeChat message to the girl he liked to make his presence known. He thought about it for a long time and thought of many classic lines such as, "Hello, I am Yang Zihao, your classmate, have you read today's letter? What do you think? Li Jianyue, I am Yang Zihao, I hope you can consider my feelings," and so on. But in the end he still forced out 2 words. "Hello." 2 simple words, polite and not rude. After thinking for a long time, he finally pressed the send button. However, the next moment, a long string of words popped up. "You are no longer a friend of the other person. Please add him/her again." Yang Zihao's full of anticipation suddenly froze, turning into a big ice cube that had been hit hard. In an instant it cracked into pieces. This. I've been blocked." He immediately opened her information. Indeed, there was no one on her WeChat moments. Yang Zihao's heart turned cold. How could this be? Li Jianyue seemed to be quite easy to get along with. Why did she suddenly block him? Could it be that she had just seen the love letter and after seeing it she directly came over to blacklist him? The more Yang Zihao thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. He clutched his chest in agony. That day he couldn't sleep. The next day, when he entered the classroom with a pair of big panda eyes, there were only a few people in the class. Li Jianyue hadn't arrived yet. Yang Zihao waited for a long time. When almost everyone in the class had arrived, he saw Li Jianyue slowly walking over. When she walked over, the gazes of both boys and girls were attracted to her. Her face was rosy and she seemed to be in a good mood. She carried her school bag and walked in while humming a tune. She sat down in her seat. Yang Zihao's eyes were glued to the screen. Suddenly he felt his eyes burning up. She was really a girl who attracted a lot of attention. How could he be worthy of such a dazzling girl? Yang Zihao couldn't help but look away. He lowered his head, took off his glasses and wiped the corners of his eyes. When he put on his glasses again, he suddenly saw a black shadow in front of him. The sudden appearance of this figure startled Yang Zihao. She looked up and saw Quan Jingyi hanging his school bag on his shoulder. He looked like a carefree young man. Quan Jingyi was a real delinquent. He was a delinquent in every way. He was clearly wearing his school uniform, but his entire temperament was like a hooligan's, making people feel that they didn't dare to provoke him. Yang Zihao didn't want to have anything to do with this kind of person. He mustered up his courage and asked, "What's the matter?" Quan Jingyi was a little tall. When he heard this, he bent down and asked in a low voice, "Hey, did she block you?" Yang Zihao felt as though his heart had been stabbed. But soon after he understood. He stomped his feet in anger and said, "You're the one who did this?" Quan Jingyi straightened his back. The smile on his lips was still there. He raised his eyebrows and looked as though he had expected it. Then, without saying anything, he turned around and prepared to return to his seat. Chapter 2204. Yang Ziheo's voice was especially loud and he had no intention of hiding it. Quan Jingyi hadn't been scolded like that in a long time. His eyebrows twitched and he stopped in his tracks. Just as he was about to turn around, something hit his head. Quan Jingyi was caught off guard and his cheek was scratched by a piece of paper. Cries of surprise came from all around. Everyone's eyes focused on them. Among them was Li Jianrui. Li Jianrui looked sideways and saw that the young man who sent her the letter yesterday was looking at Quan Jingyi angrily. As for Quan Jingyi, his originally carefree look had completely disappeared at this time. Instead, it was replaced by a dark expression. It was obvious that he seemed to be angry at a glance. Li Jianrui was used to seeing Quan Jingyi's lazy look. Seeing him like this, she felt that he was a little scary. Obviously, she wasn't the only one who felt that way. The girls next to her had similar reactions. Quan Jingyi turned around and looked at Yang Ziheo. Suddenly, his hand loosened and his bag fell to the ground. Then he suddenly took a step forward. In the next second, Yang Ziheo screamed in fear, "Ah!" His scream wasn't loud, but it revealed his nervousness. "You want to hit me?" Quan Jingyi picked up his collar. The high school student's overly developed height exerted a strong sense of oppression in front of the short Yang Ziheo. Yang Ziheo's entire body was lifted up. The tips of his feet could only touch the ground. He looked embarrassed and disheveled. Yang Ziheo glanced at Li Jianrui out of the corner of his eye. His pale face turned red. He straightened his back and shouted, "Quan Jingyi, don't think that I'm afraid of you. You despicable person, you only know how to do some." Before he could finish his words, he received a heavy punch on his cheek. The children who went to school here were all young masters and daughters who were used to living like princes from a young age, or they were exceptional students who excelled in both conduct and academics. Yang Ziheo happened to be both. How could such a weak and gentle little chicken be a match for such a big man? After the punch, Yang Ziheo was already a little dizzy. At that moment, the bell rang for class. Quan Jingyi had no intention of letting go. He said, "Are you still going to scold me? Isn't your mouth very good? That's it?" Yang Ziheo was embarrassed and in pain. Tears were about to fall from his eyes. He glared at him with reddened eyes. The look in his eyes under his gold-rimmed glasses was especially fierce. Quan Jingyi sneered and poked his face twice with his finger. "Are you glaring at me?" His eyes are so powerful. Four-eyed people are indeed different. Some of the students next to him started laughing. Li Jianrui couldn't stand it anymore and said, "Quan Jingyi, don't go overboard." Quan Jingyi looked over and pursed his lips. "What's the matter? Didn't I just send you a love letter? Did you upgrade me to your boyfriend?" These words set off a huge wave in the class. Love letter? Wow, 6666, he actually sent a love letter to Li Jianrui? It can't be. That little four eyes? I'm dying of laughter. How could Li Jianrui possibly like him? When Yang Ziheo heard this, he was so ashamed and angry that he could barely lift his head. He pushed Quan Jingyi with both hands and shouted angrily, "That's enough. Don't talk nonsense, you despicable man. You did it on purpose, didn't you?" Chapter 2205. Those words were too hurtful. Yang Ziheo was young. When he heard those words, he felt like he was about to burst into flames. His small and thin body suddenly rushed out from behind the table and looked like he was about to hit someone. But Quan Jingyi was tall and easily blocked his fist. He looked at him with a faint smile. Quan Jingyi didn't move at all. He didn't even speak. But his gaze was enough to make Yang Ziheo feel insulted. Yang Ziheo shouted. However, because he looked small and skinny, he wasn't very intimidating. Instead, he gave off the illusion that he was a child fighting with an adult. When the students in the class saw this, they thought it was funny. Quan Jingyi didn't move at all. He just stood there and blocked Yang Ziheo. There was a look of helplessness and mockery on his face. It was more like a cat playing with a mouse. Li Jianrui saw it clearly. She also knew that there was a huge difference in strength. It wasn't just a difference in height. It was a fundamental difference in their aura. That's right, how could an obedient student win against a delinquent? "What are you doing?" A middle-aged man's voice was heard. It was the dean. His roar sent everyone back to their seats. Everyone moved quickly. However, Quan Jingyi was still confronting Yang Ziheo. At that moment, Yang Ziheo didn't look too good. His eyes were red and he felt humiliated and indignant. When the dean saw this, he immediately made a decision. Quan Jingyi, why did you bully your classmate? Quan Jingyi found it funny. He turned his head and shouted, Dean, when did you see me bully my classmate? It was this kid who bullied me, okay? The dean's face darkened. How could he bully you? All of you follow me to the office. The class was in an uproar. It was little Four-Eyed who started it. Quan Jingyi didn't even do anything. Dean, this is too unfair. But it's normal. Quan Jingyi doesn't have a good reputation. If I were the dean, I would definitely be the first to suspect Quan Jingyi. Ha, but Quan Jingyi wasn't bullied. If you ask me, this little Four-Eyed is overestimating himself. He actually wanted to fight with him? Quan Jingyi was the champion of the youth mixed martial arts team in junior high. When Li Jianyue heard this, she couldn't help but look sideways at the empty seat beside her. Quan Jingyi turned out to be so powerful? However, no matter how powerful he was, it was a fact that he had a bad temper and bad character. She had originally thought that Quan Jingyi and Yang Zihao would return after the next class. Who knew that they wouldn't return to the classroom until the second class? A group of male students ran to the headmaster's office to eavesdrop. When they came back, they vividly described how little Four Eyes was crying his eyes out. They asked him what he was doing, but he refused to say. It was said that he even called his parents. Quan Jingyi's father was the mayor. He was very busy, but he still took some time out of his busy schedule to come to school. After the second class, Li Jianrui did not understand the math questions. She brought her textbooks and draft paper to ask the teacher. When she walked past the hallway of the classroom office with the books and drafts in her arms, the door to the director's office opened. Chapter 2206. Quan Jingyi probably didn't expect to see her so suddenly. After being stunned for a moment, he turned his face slightly as if to block the slap mark on his face. But soon, Quan Jingyi turned back again as if he didn't see Li Jianyue and walked out. Quan Jingyi, Li Jianyue stopped him. Did you not explain clearly? The teacher doesn't know the situation. I can be a witness for you. It's obvious that you didn't cause trouble first. Quan Jingyi's footsteps paused slightly. Then he snorted disdainfully. Then he said in an ethereal voice, there's no need. It was just 3 words, but it sounded as casual and lazy as ever, as if he didn't care about it at all. Li Jianyue looked at his back that was too well developed for his age in year 1 and felt inexplicably uncomfortable. She turned and went into the headmaster's office and knocked on the door. Come in. The headmaster's voice came. Li Jianyue carefully opened the door and walked in. At a glance, she saw the headmaster, another couple, and a middle-aged man who looked more elegant. The couple looked very young. In front of them stood the male classmate who had helped his friend deliver the love letter yesterday. However, the male classmate's eyes looked red. Even the pair of glasses couldn't hide his sadness. When he saw it was Li Jianyue, he lowered his head and rubbed his hands together. He looked a little timid. When the parents behind him saw Li Jianyue, they took a second look. One of the parents said, this female classmate looks a little familiar. I think I've seen her somewhere before. Then he asked Li Jianyue, what's your father's name? Li Jianyue was also used to such a scene. She answered easily, hello uncle. My father is Li Siqing. The answer was, my father is Li Siqing. Instead of, my father is Li Siqing. Although there was only a difference of 1 word between the two, the meaning was very different. Hearing this, the middle-aged man also looked over. He looked at her calmly and said, so you're Mr. Li's daughter. You look very similar to your mother. Li Jianyue smiled. The headmaster pushed his glasses and looked at Li Jianyue. He asked kindly, Student Li, why are you looking for me? Li Jianyue was still holding the math book in her hand. The headmaster continued, your math teacher's office is next door. Li Jianyue nodded her head and said, I know, director. It's just that I feel the need to help explain that what happened in the classroom just now was not entirely Quan Jingyi's fault. When Yang Zihao heard Li Jianyue's words, he looked shocked. He pinched the hem of his school uniform and looked at Li Jianyue. He bit his lower lip and didn't say anything. Li Jianyue noticed his gaze and had a rough idea of what was going on. She was a little angry and said, actually, this student had a conflict with Quan Jingyi first. Then he went to hit Quan Jingyi. Quan Jingyi didn't fight back and then, enough. A young man's voice came from outside. Li Jianyue turned around and saw a tall figure standing at the door against the light. His hand was holding the handle of the office door, and his expression was calm. He looked at Li Jianyue and said, what has it got to do with you? I didn't ask you to be nosy. Li Jianyue was stunned. I'm helping you explain. You didn't hit anyone. Why? Why did he want to be beaten? Chapter 2207. His words made the face of the middle-aged man who looked more refined in the office change slightly. When Li Jianyue heard this, she felt a little sorry for him. After Quan Jingyi said this, he looked down at Li Jianyue and reached out to press her head. Let's go. It has nothing to do with you. Why are you so enthusiastic? Li Jianyue was a little annoyed from being pressed down. She retorted, Do you think I want to? It's all because you're too annoying. That's why everyone wronged you. If you were a good person, would people not believe you? At the end of the day, it's because of your usual behavior. For example, right now, I want to help you explain so that you won't be wronged. Shouldn't you thank me gratefully? How dare you blame me for being a busybody? My kindness is not rewarded. Quan Jingyi sneered and didn't say anything else. He turned around and prepared to leave. Wait a minute, the middle-aged man said. Li Jianyue looked back and found that the man looked similar to Quan Jingyi. He should be Quan Jingyi's father. Quan Jingyi's father was the new mayor of Kingstown. His name was Quan Jingqing. Quan Jingqing looked more cultured. He looked like a gentle uncle. If she hadn't seen the big palm print on Quan Jingyi's face with her own eyes, Li Jianyue probably wouldn't have thought that he would hit someone like that. Quan Jingqing walked over and reached out to put his hand on Quan Jingyi's shoulder. Quan Jingyi stood there lazily as if his bones had been pulled out. He didn't react when his shoulder was put on. Quan Jingqing put on a stern face and bellowed in a low voice, Don't stand properly. Stand properly. Quan Jingyi straightened his body and turned to look at his father with a faint smile. He said, What do you want? His tone was lazy and sounded sloppy. It was really infuriating. Li Jianyue thought that if someone responded like this when she was talking to him, she would definitely be furious. However, Quan Jingqing was much calmer than she had imagined. He only looked at Quan Jingyi deeply, and there seemed to be guilt in his eyes. It was very faint, but it was enough to move people. He said, Xiao Yi, since you were wronged, why didn't you explain clearly? Everyone in the office, including Yang Zihao, his parents, and the director, tensed up when they heard this. In fact, this matter had already been concluded a while ago. The conclusion was that Quan Jingyi bullied a classmate, and Quan Jingyi needed to apologize to Yang Zihao. However, Quan Jingyi's attitude was very tough. Not only did he refuse to let go, but he also faced the teacher in a provocative manner. Such an attitude easily angered Quan Jingqing. Quan Jingqing seemed to be unable to let go of his pride. Without saying a word, he gave Quan Jingyi a big slap. Quan Jingyi pursed his lips and turned to walk out of the office, ignoring everyone's reaction. At this moment, Li Jianyue came in. According to her, the results seemed to be different. Quan Jingqing's attitude now was undoubtedly to turn the tables for Quan Jingyi. Yang Zihao's mother was very angry and said, So according to what you're saying, my son bullied him? Your son is so tall and strong. It can't be that my son went looking for trouble first, right? Seeing this, the director hurriedly said, What exactly happened? I think there must be some misunderstanding. Why don't we listen to the two children's explanation? You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.